I can't do it.
Okay.
We'll do it live.
Okay.
Do it live! I'll write it and we'll do it live!
Time to rise and grind.
Are you kidding me? Holy on smoke!
And let's get this banter going.
It's bacon!
This is Snowman in the Morning.
Does anybody else feel like a fried egg?
And it begins now.
I want you to get up now. I want all of you to get up out of your chairs. I want you to get up right now and go to the window, open it, and stick your head out and yell,
I think I just broke my chair. He did what?
Has anybody ever told you you have a serious impulse control problem?
There is but one cause for me to follow. Almighty the Bum!
And here we go.
Oh, yeah!
And that's hit pretty well and pretty deep to left. Gardner is going back, looking up. See you later!
You golden blank staggered black skeleton and blinkety blank punk are you trying to do? Of all that low dirty...
Michael on the drive across the lane. Turnaround shot. Got it. 63 for Jordan.
Do you believe it?
Murphy picked out of midair to Amani. Set him up Roenick. Horseland! 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 Jeremy Roenick! After the giveaway was forced by Amani. What a play by Tony Amani. And Jeremy Roenick fired it home at the 123 mark. And the Blackhawks have come back from the dead in this series.
Good morning. Welcome to the Taco Tuesday edition of a Snowman in the Morning. You can follow along with us on social media by dialing up SNW Digital Media for Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Snapchat, and Pinterest. You can also log on to Snowman Digital Media for all of our great conversations from this show, as well as others produced by Snowman Digital Media. This is the best sports talk show you haven't heard of until now. You can hear us every Monday, which is today, through Friday on all of our great stations and networks in the region, across the nation, and around the world, and across the internet. And the podcast version of this here show will be available right after this show is completed. You ready to get into it? Good. Let's get started. Okay, folks. I know you have heard the phrase of sick and tired of being sick and tired. When it comes to LeBron James, I'm beyond sick and tired of being sick and tired. I'm tired of these frivolous stats that are being thrown at me. I'm tired of these frivolous world championship records that are being thrown at me. And I'm definitely tired of people using his pass-first mentality to make up for the fact that he doesn't have a doggone killer instinct. I better get some help on this one. Cole Johnson from Cole Sports now joins me. Aren't you tired of being sick and tired when it comes to this?
Yeah, I am. And as you know, because of it, I created a whole segment on my show to where I did not want to talk about LeBron James every single day or every single episode of anything Cole Sports, because I was like, okay, this is getting sick. This is getting ridiculous. So I'm just going to shorten anything LeBron James to like 10 to 15 minute segment a week, and just go from there. Because it's getting ridiculous. This is getting ridiculous.
You know what someone threw at me, and this may require an email response from you. Not only did they throw all of the frivolous responses, and you've seen them all post on my timeline because they do the same thing on your timeline. They threw 2016 at me with the sentence that LeBron James made the greatest comeback in NBA World Championship history.
Sorry, I had to get comfortable in this one because. All right, but before I continue, I gotta add this log onto this fire.
Okay.
So I woke up one day, and one of the very first things I saw.
Oh no!
In regards to the 2016 NBA Finals / World Championship Series, was the following.
Oh, no.
Quote, LeBron's chase down block was the greatest defensive play in NBA history. Quote, quote.
What?
LeBron James' chase down block was the greatest defensive play in NBA history. Yes, I saw this. Yeah. Now, we both could come up with huge defensive plays without even trying, like the Michael Jordan steal of Karl Malone in the Game 6, 1998 NBA Finals. I can think of the John Starks shot being blocked by Hakeem Olajuwon by a fingernail at the end of Game 6 of 1984's NBA Finals. I'm doing that just without trying.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking those two are far better.
How about Gerald Henderson's pickoff of James Worthy in 1984 in the Boston Garden? How about
Game 2? And if that didn't happen, the Lakers would have run away this series, possibly in a sweep.
Yep.
Yeah.
You don't have Gerald Henderson. You don't have a 7-game series, which is the greatest finals ever played, and CBS had it at the time. And we'll touch that subject a little bit later in this conversation. Michael Jordan's steal in 1998, as you proudly mentioned. Any defense Kareem Abdul-Jabbar played against Robert Parrish, be it 1984, 1985, or 1987. How about that? How about Hakeem Olajuwon, as you mentioned? John Starks' game-winning 3 blocked by a fingernail.
Yep.
Okay. How about Moses Malone shutting down Kareem in 1983?
Yeoman's work there. Yes.
Giving Julius Erving a chance to clinch Game 4, which was a sweep, by the way, ladies and gentlemen, with the most basic thing that LeBron hasn't had for 17 years. We call it a jump shot.
And, how about that steal, Game 5, 1987 Eastern Conference Finals, when Isaiah Thomas is inbounding the ball. Bird steals it.
Larry Legend.
He throws it to Dennis Johnson for a layup.
108-107 was that final. And that to me is one of the top 5 greatest defensive plays in the NBA playoffs.
Yes, easily.
Okay.
Yes,
top 5 easy. Because if Detroit wins Game 5, they win Game 6 and clinch that series.
They win Game 6. Yes, sir. Yes, they do. Yes, they do. So, all of this, and to have a Bronzexual hit me with
that,
the chase down block. I saw, and I don't mean I saw on TV. I mean, I was in the Summit. I saw Hakeem Olajuwon run down a Rod Strickland layup.
Yep.
And sent it into the 5th row. I saw a chase down block artist long before LeBron James did it well.
I saw Michael Jordan chase down Patrick Ewing and strip him. I saw Michael Jordan in the old Chicago Stadium chase down John Starks after Starks stripped him. I saw Michael Jordan chase down Joe Dumars.
Oh, and let me think of another Olajuwon chase down. Kevin Johnson. And look, I love KJ. Point guard, Suns extraordinaire in the 90s. He's one of the baddest point guards that you'll ever see.
It should be a Hall of Famer, in my opinion.
Yep.
It should be a Hall of Famer.
He definitely should be. Mayor of Sacramento. And more power to you, brother. That dude was on his way to a dunk, and Olajuwon was like, no, sir. So you mean to tell me that LeBron's chased out block of Andre Iguodala? Now, I'm not selling the play short.
No.
But you mean to tell me that is the best defensive play in the 73-year history of the NBA? Get out of here. Please.
And not to mention
this
Iguodala.
Is the audacity of the Bronzexuals.
Listen, the audacity of these Bronzexuals saying that LeBron gave his all in 2018 playing with a broken hand. How about Andre Iguodala giving his all for 7 games in 2016 playing with a bad back?
Mm-hmm.
And he still played all 7. and had a significant contribution in all 7, especially when the Warriors got royally screwed after Game 4, forcing Iguodala into a starting role in Games 5 through 7. Don't start with me.
So when I hear the greatest comeback in NBA history, when I hear that, I'm like, you can take that and completely leave, because in my opinion, and even though this wasn't in the finals, this is what I fully believe: the greatest comeback I ever saw in NBA history. And yes, this is my team, mind you. 1995 Houston Rockets. They were down 3-1
to the Phoenix Suns.
To the Suns. They had to face 2 road games, similar to the Cavs. They had to face 2 road games. And
in Phoenix, and it was the toughest. Yeah, it was one of the toughest places. America West Arena, in its infancy, was one of the toughest places to play in the NBA, not just the Western Conference.
It was, and unlike the beneficial suspension that the Cavaliers got for Game 5.
Oh, that stimulus package.
The Suns were fully manned.
They were fully
loaded. There was no injury.
Nope.
There was no suspensions. And
no suspension because of dry snitching either. Can we just throw that in there too?
Yes. And the Rockets, if I'm not mistaken, I think they became the first team in NBA history to come back from 3-1 on the road to win the series in the playoffs.
Yep.
So you mean to tell me, and I think it was only then the fourth that ever happened, period.
Yes.
So you mean to tell me that this comeback was the greatest? I'm like, no, yeah, coming back from 3-1, yeah, yeoman's feat, no question about that.
Absolutely.
But greatest? No,
not even close.
I've seen better, and
you and I both have seen better. Good grief, you and I have both seen better. Are you kidding me? You and I have both seen better.
I mean, the first, taking my own team out of it, I can't remember the year. I want to say it was 2002 or 3. First round series when they went to 7 games. The Detroit Pistons. They came back from 3. They had 2003. Thank you. They came back from a 3-1 deficit in the first round against the Magic.
And that was the first team to wipe out a 3-1 deficit in the first round since the playoffs were expanded to 7 games.
Exactly.
The first round was expanded to 7 games. I beg your pardon. And they want to say that's the greatest? Who the hell told this lie?
Right. And then later on in that decade, I will throw my own team under the bus. The Rockets had a 3-1 or 2-0 series lead against the Mavericks in the first round.
And they blew it.
They went home.
And they blew it.
I mean,
not to mention the fact these same Warriors of 2016 who everyone wants to throw under the bus. By the way, don't y'all remember that they had to wipe out a 3-1 deficit of their own against Oklahoma City?
Yes. They had to wipe one out of their own.
They had to wipe out a 3-1 deficit of their own. And no one wants to give the Warriors the credit they deserve because they lost the World Championship Series. I will contend this until the day I die. The Warriors got screwed royally. The Warriors, let's just go ahead and put it out there, and I'm going to continue to put it out there, and it's gaining a little bit of traction because people actually are starting to, do their research and actually believe what I'm telling them. The Warriors got screwed, royally screwed.
You can raise a point about the fact that the NBA wanted to have a narrative of LeBron being the hometown boy, going back home and doing good, and bring a championship to an area that hasn't had a professional one in 51 and a half years. I mean, you can raise an argument for that.
Yep.
I try not to, but I can see it, and I don't dismiss it.
Understood.
And the reason why I say I try not to is because I don't want to think the NBA is that much of a puppeteer. However, I could see how that could be the case. I can, unfortunately.
Yeah, I was gonna say 2 words. Too late. You know it. I know it. All of us old schoolers know it.
I mean,
and what's bad, they're still trying to this day. They're still trying to this day to make themselves not seem like a puppeteer. A little too late for that.
Mm-hmm. I just don't get, seriously, I just don't get the fascination. And it's not even the fascination of lauding a player.
Mm-hmm.
We all have our favorites.
Yeah.
I don't mind that. Fine, laud your player. I just don't get the fascination of saying this player is great at the total expense of another. I just don't get the rationale, the reasoning, and the heart to do it. I'm like, what does it benefit you to say LeBron is great, or is the greatest of all time because, well, he did things that the guy who wore number 23 before Jordan didn't do. And yes, I know there's some things that Jordan has not done that LeBron has, but the opposite is totally true.
Mm-hmm.
And it's more exponentially so. LeBron did things that LeBron never will do. It's more true than the opposite.
Yep.
So it has to get to a point where people have to say, okay, well, Jordan is awesome, and LeBron is awesome in his own way.
Mm-hmm.
But they're just two different players, period. I just don't get how people have this rationale of, yeah, let's trash Jordan. I don't get it.
Because since LeBron's been in the league, that's all they've done is trash Jordan. Since LeBron has been in the league,
in NBA career, that has been the case. It's been like, oh well, he already is the best thing. Forget since Jordan, he's better than Jordan. And I'm like, well, okay, fine. So he got into the league 3 years before Jordan did. Whoopee, I'm happy for him.
Mm-hmm.
But fine. I mean, heck, that helped him get past Jordan in the all-time career scoring mark. The fact that he had a 3-year head start on Jordan.
Yep.
I mean, because I know that's one of the things that people say to me. Well, he scored more points than Jordan. Yeah, more power to him. But
they throw that at
Jordan
me as well.
Yeah, Jordan scored more points in less time than LeBron did.
Thank you.
Explain that. Explain that.
And you
Jordan
know they
did
can't.
That 13 years to 16 for LeBron. Explain that to me. So I don't get that.
I've always made the contention, and I've always made the statement, which is factual, that Michael Jordan did more in 13 years than LeBron has done in almost 17 years. I don't have to say if you only knew the pushback I get. You've seen the pushback I get.
Well, I mean, it's true.
You've seen the pushback I get for making that statement, and it usually begins, and you've heard it also, with a sentence that starts with, quote, "Oh, how can you say that about LeBron?" Close quote.
Is it because we have seen more than not even just Jordan? We've seen more fair share of players who played this game better than he has.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, look, this is neither one of our first rodeos in watching an NBA game or NBA season. I mean, for both of us, we're going to our 5th decade of watching NBA basketball.
Yep.
So if that's the case, wouldn't it stand to reason that we would not, in a capsule, just simply say, well, the NBA only existed for 17, heck, I'll even give you 20 years? The mentality just blows my mind. It really does. It just blows my mind.
Here's something that I got in a private message, and I sent you the picture with LeBron standing tall, or short if you're thinking the way we are, with a quote-unquote scrub lineup. And the quote was, and I'll borrow from you, my dear friend, quote, LeBron took this team to the NBA Finals. Keep telling me he's not better than MJ. Close quote. Actually, playoffs, not finals, playoffs.
No,
Playoffs. Okay.
Yes.
I reached out to said person and I said MJ is better than LeBron because when MJ had a trash lineup, he got a 50-win season and went further than LeBron did with that trash lineup. The year was 1988. The first time they faced, I don't know, the Detroit Pistons in a playoff series. And this is before they made the trade for Cartwright.
Right.
This is a team that was finding its up. This is what I say makes MJ better than LeBron. Julius Erving had it. Hakeem Olajuwon had it. Scottie Pippen had it. MJ had it. Patrick Ewing had it. It's called progression.
Yeah.
It's called progression. And LeBron ain't had it.
Right. And far be it from us to want to actually have LeBron go through a progression period. Far be it from us to actually say, okay, show me where you were in one spot, where you are in another spot, and how you grew from point A to point B. How dare we have that expectation of any player since we've seen the greats actually show us that's what they did. Oh, yes, and to that lineup, that trash lineup for LeBron with the Cavs. That was the 2009 Cavaliers. And
and they got smacked around in the East Finals.
And I know you remember this as vividly as I did. The talk was, we're finally going to get a Kobe versus LeBron Finals.
Mm-hmm.
The Cavs, this is going to be finally their year. And, you know, they scraped their chin last year against the Celtics. They got pushed to they pushed the Celtics to the brink in the Eastern Conference semifinals, but they bowed out in 7.
Yep.
And LeBron had a wonderful performance, 45 points there. It offset I think the Truth scored 39 in that game.
Mm-hmm.
It offset his 39. It just wasn't enough. So and this was the progression that we're talking about. I'm like, okay, so we might be seeing that.
Mm-hmm.
So they come out next year, they finish with the best record in the NBA. Cool. I'm good with that. They go through the first 2 rounds like it's nothing.
Right.
Awesome. All right, so I'm expecting greatness to assert itself.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then they let an old school type team like the Magic just destroy them.
They got pummeled. They got creamed in that East Final series.
I mean, what was elaborate about the Magic? They basically were like how not a thing. They basically like how my beloved Rockets were set up 15 years prior, inside out.
Yep.
You got a guy who could do work in the post. And you had, in their case, they had 4. In the Rockets, it was 3. But you had 4 guys who were spread out from beyond the arc.
Mm-hmm.
This was, to me, that is not complicated. Yet, the Cavaliers simply did not have an answer for them.
Nope.
They were bounced in 6. And the next thing you know, we're starting to see this guy and his armor crack a bit. And so, here's this Brown special that shows you, he took this trash lineup to the playoffs. And, I said this to you. I'll say this on air. I said to you about that, quote, if a Brown special were to say it to you, I'd retort by saying, and remind me how their season finished. Because, yes, that trash lineup that won 66 games didn't even make it to the NBA Finals. Close quote.
That's exactly it.
So why are you going to bring he brought this trash lineup to the playoffs. Okay, fine. It's even more embarrassing they won 66 with the trash lineup.
What was the end result of that?
Yes, what was the end result? Did we see him hoist the Larry O'Brien trophy? No. Did we even see him compete for it that year? No. So what's the point? Come on, really?
You know what the point? You know what the point is. It's a point we've been talking about for almost 3 years. They don't want to see the truth, and the truth is something I've been saying for as long as I've had my show active. LeBron James is a fantastic athlete.
He's an awesome athlete.
He just ain't that good.
If any of us were to say otherwise, we would not need to have a mic shelter our mouths.
Exactly.
Period.
Okay. I've always said this since he's come into the league, and people still want to label me a hater. Fine. But take this statement into consideration, and it's mine and mine alone. People have agreed with it. LeBron James is a fantastic athlete. Okay? He's a fantastic athlete. When it comes to basketball, however, there's an incomplete page right there.
Yeah. It's riddled with 6 championship losses. I mean, how can that be escapable? If, you know something. Here's my take and mine alone.
Let's go.
All right. You know what I've been seeing the older I've gotten? It seems that sports fan has become soft.
Mm-hmm.
Since when do you remember having any of us give a pass to any team or any player that got to the precipice of their season, but they didn't finish the deal? When did we award participation trophies? When did we do this? Please tell me, when did we do this? Because this was not the case.
Nope.
When I was younger and when you were younger, because we're around the same age. Mm-hmm. This was not the case when we were younger.
No, it wasn't.
It was, okay, you got there, now close it off, finish the deal.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I mean, look, I don't tout.
We're old school like that. We're old school like that. Okay?
Right. I don't tout, well, Olajuwon's better than Jordan because Olajuwon went to the finals 5 years before Jordan did.
No.
How ridiculous does that sound? Come on, man.
And look, my first team may have been the Chicago Bulls, but I recognize greatness. And Hakeem Olajuwon was all of that and then some. I loved Hakeem Olajuwon at the University of Houston.
Mm-hmm.
Okay?
And
I've loved Olajuwon since the University of Houston. Look, I hate to say this, bronze sexuals, but just hear out a little bit of logic here. Unlike what LeBron has done, Hakeem made his team better.
Yep, he made his team better. Oh, and bronze sexuals, if you want, I don't like to call them scrubs, but if you want a team of non-all-stars that an elite player brought a team to a championship with, I will present you the 1994 Houston Rockets.
Yep.
There you are.
Because
at
the guy
who averaged 27 points, the next guy who averaged any type of points was like 13.
Mm-hmm.
So
because at the time,
there's
people were wondering, who the hell is Sam Cassell? Who the hell is Vernon Maxwell? Why the hell is Kenny Smith still playing? These were legitimate questions that were asked of me. And Olajuwon took him to 7 games. Had to erase a 3-1 deficit against Phoenix in 94.
No, 2-0.
2-0. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. 2-0 deficit to Phoenix.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. Beat the daylights out of Utah.
Yeah, they didn't stand a chance at that.
Utah didn't have a chance.
Mm-hmm.
And then they had to go the distance and win the last and face 2 elimination games.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Both of them at home.
Mm-hmm.
and they got the job done.
Yeah. Gosh, that was a good series. Oh, man.
And people want to compare 2016 to something like that. That NBA World Championship Series was legendary. 1994.
It was.
2016 had too many undertones with it. Because
if I'm not mistaken, wasn't every game outside of Game 7
lopsided?
Yeah.
It was lopsided. And everybody who knows me or knows of me knows I make this contention, and you agree with it. That should have been a 5-game conquest. Period.
Well, I mean, considering, like I said to you, if Draymond Green was supposed to be suspended, it was supposed to be the series before.
Yep.
I will always contend that.
Mm-hmm.
And
I'll stand with you. I stand with you with that.
And my thought was, if you didn't suspend him in the Western Conference Finals, and it was more egregious with that one, with the kick to Steven Adams in the groin, that was egregious.
Yes, it was.
If you didn't suspend him for that, then you had no reason to suspend him for Game 5 of
the World Championship
Series, because in the game prior, the end of that game prior, Green gets into basically nothing more than just a trash talking contest with LeBron James.
Mm-hmm. And by the way, folks,
for a game because he was talking trash to LeBron James.
And by the way, folks, Game 4, the Warriors wiped him out. They wiped him out.
Mm-hmm. So I mean, when people say that was a legendary finals, I'm like, okay, fine. It went 7 games. It's awesome, and it was a great 7th game.
Mm-hmm.
But I will definitely take 1994 easily, because no game in that series, if I'm not mistaken, the margin of victory was no higher than 8 points. I think
no higher than 8
in any of those games.
No higher than 8
in any of those games. No higher than 8. It was evenly matched, closely contested, all 7 games.
And
I will take that one.
And that's how a World Championship Series. And that's how a World Championship Series is supposed to be, evenly contested. 1994. I'll bring up 1984. The Lakers actually, in terms of points average, outscored the Celtics by a very slim margin. A very slim margin. And were it not for 2 overtime periods and a key steal, Brownomaniacs, listen carefully, were it not for 2 overtime games and a key steal that led one of those games to go to overtime, it's a 4-game Lakers sweep.
Yeah, it would have been.
But I'll take that 7-game series in a heartbeat.
In a heartbeat? Kidding me? Heck yeah, I'll take that.
I'll take that 7-game series, and it makes you now, without us having the NBA for the present time, it makes you appreciate those old games. It makes you really appreciate it.
I actually watched not all the games, but I actually watched a documentary of the 1984 NBA Finals. Well, they actually called it World Championship Series.
Yes.
I actually saw, the highlights of all 7 games, and it just took me back, and I was like, wow, man, I wish the NBA was played like this again.
Me too.
I wish it was played like that.
On 2 separate planes, how much do you miss Kevin McHale?
A lot. Are you kidding me? A lot. I mean, people want to throw such huge shade at Kevin McHale because people say, well, you got Chris Webber, you got Kevin Garnett, you got Charles Barkley, you got Karl Malone. And I will always say to people, for the exception of Tim Duncan, my favorite my favorite power forward of all time, Kevin McHale. Why? Have you seen that dude?
Mm-hmm.
The fundamentals this guy has is off the freaking charts. I mean,
that step back jumper on the baseline, his foul line jumper, his post moves. Hey, Bron Sexuals, listen carefully. You know what LeBron needs but will never get in his 17th year? Something Kevin McHale had for the 15 years he was in the NBA. a post game.
Man.
One of the most intricate, complicated, not easily solved, but basic post games you will ever see. I adored watching Kevin McHale work. Even against my teams, Kevin McHale took you to school. Okay?
Even against mine. Do you think that as then 13-year-old, I wanted to see Kevin McHale cook my Rockets in the 1986 World Championship Series? No. But do you know how I appreciated it? Because I got a chance to see greatness in front of me.
Yep.
And he is one of the three biggest reasons why I say the 1986 Celtics is the single season best team I've ever watched in NBA history.
And they played the most beautiful game of basketball.
Yes. And I will give you three words that typifies Kevin McHale to me: up and under.
Mm-hmm. The master of the up and under. He was
the master of the up and under. So, you know, when people give me all the, you don't even have to take my word for it. When Charles Barkley was asked, who was the toughest guy who you played against?
Kevin McHale.
And he said, I don't even have to hesitate. Kevin McHale was the toughest player I played against. I don't even have to hesitate.
And I loved watching I loved watching Charles. I loved watching McHale, Ralph Sampson, Charles Oakley, one of my hometown favorite power forwards, Charles Oakley, who played with the Bulls for many years. I mean, I mean, it's not even close. Do you know if Kevin McHale and LeBron James had a battle in the post, LeBron James would be battered, bruised, bloodied, and blown out?
And that's before McHale draws contact with him.
Yeah,
McHale didn't even have to be physical with LeBron, and he would embarrass the guy.
He would embarrass him. McHale would embarrass him. I'll give you another forward that would embarrass. I'll give you another forward who was so defensive-minded that would cook LeBron blindfolded. Does the name Bobby Jones mean anything to you?
Underrated. When people talk about the Sixers, they even mention the coach Billy Cunningham before they mention Bobby Jones. But Andrew Toney and Maurice Cheeks and of course Julius Erving and of course Musa Malone, the guy who really did help them get that championship in 1983.
Yep, took them to the promised land.
But that team needed a Bobby Jones. And all that dude did was he just did the basics, but he did the basics so well.
He did. He did
the basics so well. Unsung hero of that team. Unsung hero of those Sixers teams of the early to mid-'80s.
So a Bron Sexual asked me this question from a forward standpoint. Mm-hmm. And I hit him with, he said, and it's like he was defending LeBron. He said, name a forward that can compete with LeBron. I said, today or yesteryear? He goes, any era. I said, all right, I'll give you three of them right now. He said, lay it on me. I'll give you three Hall of Famers: Kevin McHale, James Worthy, Scottie Pippen.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't even touch Larry Bird because we all know Larry. I don't have to touch Larry. We ain't got to touch Larry Bird.
Mm-hmm. Don't even have to. But I mean, if you want to mic drop Larry Bird, but still, you might drop that argument. It's Larry Bird. But I mean, yeah. Let's touch on Worthy for a second. People sleep on that guy so hard. They sleep on this guy so hard because they think, well, he was a product of Magic, and you had Kareem on the team too. Do you realize when Magic was the number one focal point of that team, who the leading scorer of that team was?
James
It
Worthy.
Wasn't Magic. It wasn't Kareem. It was Big Game James.
James Worthy.
This guy was a thoroughbred, and you all sleep on him. The whole league looks like him.
Yep.
The whole league today looks like number
James
42
Worthy.
of the Lakers.
Looks like James
because that
Worthy.
is all what Worthy did. He ran up and down the court, and he was so fast for his size. He was so physical for his size to boot, and he was so athletic for his size to boot.
Yep.
And the dude had skills. So,
oh my God, did he ever?
So, I mean, when people want to just simply brush aside James Worthy as being, he's a non-essential part of the puzzle, no, sir.
He was so integral. Listen, bronzexuals, and I know we've gone on a lot with the bronzexuals, but y'all got to listen to this. James Worthy has something that LeBron just recently got. James Worthy closed out a Game 7 with a triple-double and did it against the most defensive.
Yep.
And did it against the most defensive-minded team in one of the most defensive-minded teams in NBA history. Of course, I'm talking about the Detroit Pistons.
1988. Yep, I remember that.
1980, Game 7, 1988, at the Forum. Not the Great Western Forum, not the Staples Center, the Fabulous Forum.
The Fabulous Forum. Yep. And I had a full...
Oh, no. Oh, no.
Yeah. So, okay. So, when I had this conversation with Bron Sexual, and they said, okay, you compare LeBron James and the people that he played with in the finals, and the list is endless: Durant, Curry, Clay, Duncan, Westbrook, Harden. Name one guy that has been on par with all of these players that Jordan played against in the finals. I was like,
I remember that Magic Johnson.
I mean, come on.
Let's start with 19.
Top 5 players of all time.
Let's start with 1991. Magic Johnson, James Worthy, Vlade Divac. 1992, Clyde Drexler, Terry Porter, Buck Williams. 1993, Kevin Johnson, Charles Barkley. Danny Ainge.
And a former multi-time champion, Danny Ainge. Yes.
Not to mention one of my favorite long-distance shooters. I believe he goes by the name of Dan Marley.
Dan Marley. Mm-hmm.
Okay, let's go to 1996. What should be a pair of Hall of Famers, but one of them is in Gary Payton, Sean Kemp. Give you another underrated forward he played against. His name was Detlef Schrempf.
Yep.
How about
one of the most underrated 6 men in the history of the game?
Hersey Hawkins, one of the best shooters of all time. 1997 and 98, John Stockton, Karl Malone, former Atlanta Hawk Antoine Carr, Greg Ostertag, who gave Jordan fits.
Decent center. Decent defensive center.
Fits. Okay.
Decent defensive center. Yep.
Jeff Hornacek, a former Lions Township graduate from Lyons, Illinois. All right.
Oh.
Yeah. Oh,
I did not know he was. I did not know he was a nearby Chicago native.
He's a Chicago native. He's a Chicago native. Okay. So don't tell us. We don't know what we're talking about, and don't give us the stupidest question you could ever give us. Name one player that Jordan has faced. Man, please. I could tell you. We can tell you players he faced on his way to the World Championship.
That's about to say. We even had to talk about the finals. On his way to the finals, the list of
Hall of Famers,
greats and Hall of Famers.
The list of Hall of Famers: Larry Bird, Kevin McHale, Robert Parrish, Dennis Johnson,
Dennis Rodman.
Yep. James Edwards, Mark Aguirre.
Joe Dumars.
From Chicago, by the way. Mark Aguirre played at DePaul University. Right. Another Chicagoan, and this one is for a legendary coach I had a chance to meet before he passed away, Gene Pingatore, Isaiah Thomas.
Yep.
Played at
St. Joe in the history of the game.
Played at St. Joe's in Westchester, Illinois. Isaiah Thomas.
Chicago's own.
Yep.
West Chicago's own. I mean, and this is also addressed to one of the biggest bronzexuals in the history of civilization. That would be Undisputed's own Shannon Sharp.
Oh no!
How dare you follow a guy on a team where when you ask or you pose a question similar to that you forget that Jordan played against Magic Johnson? How could you forget this? I mean,
not to mention some of the regular season games alone between Michael Jordan and Magic Johnson. We're talking from 1985 to 1991 were some legendary games.
Those were must-see. Those are must-see games. I mean, it boggles my mind. It's like you all are going to just simply sweep so far under the rug Jordan's championship legacy, and I'm like, this guy's championship legacy began by ending 2 in the same spring.
Yep.
So you mean to tell me that you're going to say, well, Jordan's legacy don't mean rip, when he took the 2-time defending NBA champions down in a sweep? In a sweep, I may add. And the very next series take down basically the team of the 80s. I normally
in a 5-game series.
In a 5-game series?
5-game series. And oh, by the way, here is a note about the 5th and deciding game in the forum that a lot of people don't realize. Michael didn't lead his team in scoring that night. Scottie Pippen did. He had 32.
Yep.
MJ had 30.
Yep. Didn't have to. And the thing that I remember, this is when I actually started to really respect Jordan as a player. The thing that I remember, that fourth quarter, Jordan, he had the ball, but I saw he kept finding Paxson open. He kept finding Paxson open that whole fourth quarter. I was like, oh, look at you, Jordan. Okay. Oh,
listen.
So that's when my eyes opened as to the championship guy that I knew he was going to become. Now I knew he was a great player, and I knew he had the ability to do different things. But I was like, okay, fourth quarter. Normally, this would be the time when a guy like Jordan stature would say, okay, well, give me the ball, get out the way, I'm gonna score all the points. No. Jordan was like, okay, well, they're gonna double me, play off you. All right, John, here you go. And he just kept feeding Paxson. Well, that's what I noticed in Game 5, fourth quarter.
Players like that trust their teammates. And don't give me the argument, and I know you've heard this argument. We've spoken about it on this show. Don't give me the argument, well, Michael was carried. Well, duh, it's a team sport, you dummy.
Sometimes players need to be. I mean, look, I said this in an argument with the same LeBron special that said that LeBron chase down blocks a great defensive player in NBA history. He thinks that I come from the standpoint of, well, Jordan can do nothing wrong, and LeBron can do everything wrong. I'm like, no. My philosophy is the same with LeBron as it is with Jordan. The greater the player, the greater responsibility, the greater the praise, and the greater the criticism. And if you're going to step up, I'm going to heap the praise upon you, like Jordan did. But if your player doesn't step up, I'm going to criticize you.
Look, Jordan stepped up so ridiculously, not just with his scoring, but with okay, people are going to hate me for this. The Bronx sectors especially going to hate me for this, but you've heard me say it. How about basketball acumen? How about the fact that Jordan trusted John Paxson? How about the fact that Jordan trusted his teammates in 1992 to help wipe out a 15-point fourth quarter deficit in a closeout game in Chicago? How about the fact that MJ trusted Pax, who crept behind the 3-point line? They gave Michael the ball and said, "Here, create." Okay, Michael could have driven to the hoop, could have gone to overtime. What's he do? He spots Scottie. Scottie charges down the lane. They collapse. They find Horace. They collapse on him. And who's wide open to take the game, the championship winning shot?
Yes.
I believe this is John Paxson.
Yep. Game 6, 1993 NBA Finals. Yep.
But what people don't understand, MJ started it with his penetration.
Exactly.
And they gave him the ball. Here's something that all the greats, including Jordan, up to the Jordan era, including the Kobe Shaq era. Here's something,
even them.
You can include the Kobe Shaq era and the Warriors era, which is still going, by the way. We'll touch that in a minute. They trust their teammates. They get the ball to their leader and allow the leader to do a simple 3-word phrase: make the decision.
I mean, I just don't get how when you see the evidence of a guy who knows basketball, they still want to down and degrade him.
Yep.
And do it in this way. Well, Jordan didn't take all the game-winning shots. Why would he need to? Why would he want to? And I would always say this: the reason why he didn't have to is because, I'll admit it, in the 80s he did sometimes stupidly take it all on his own.
Yep.
And he had to learn by trial by fire. Well, okay, I can't always take all the shots. I can't play 5-on-1. I know I have that ability to where I think I can defeat a whole team by myself, but maybe I need to use my teammates. And it took him bumping his butt on the ground to the Pistons year after year, because that basically was the defense they played against him.
Yep.
They dared him to use his teammates. And then when Jordan actually did, that's when the Pistons were out the door. So
and that's when the Bulls dynasty began.
Jordan learned.
So LeBron hasn't.
So we're gonna So we're gonna penalize Jordan because he decided to not score decided not do 37 5-and-5 lines, but decided to do 31 6-and-6. Years later, the championship years, that basically was his line. So we're gonna punish him because he didn't score as many points.
And MJ still has the respect of everyone he's played against because they refer to his smarts as well as his ability.
As they should. I mean, that to me is what made Jordan the player he was. It wasn't the fact that he was a great offensive weapon. He is one of the greatest offensive weapons in NBA history. No question. It was the fact that dude, you did not know what he was going to do. Penetrate, hit you with a fadeaway, hit a three, or dish. And he could do all of that with absolute amazing dexterity. Skill.
This is what a lot of people don't realize. Jordan was very ambidextrous. He was very ambidextrous. Oh, by the way, LeBron, why don't you have a left-handed dribble?
Oh, that's a good question.
Every time, and I've noticed this in the past 10 years, every time LeBron has gotten stripped, what's happened? It's been taken from his left hand.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, and so that you know that we know Brown Specials are our game. Yes, the Pistons also tested Jordan's left hand, and it wasn't all that strong either.
Exactly.
But because of that, it got stronger. So miss me with that. Come on, man.
Michael said, I'm going to figure out how to get better and make my teammates better. Matt Gukas had one of the best lines during the NBA on NBC era, 1997, Game 6, June 12th, 1997. After Steve Kerr hit the championship winner, Matt Gukas said, and I quote, "Well, the question was, would Stockton come to double Michael Jordan? Stockton came. Steve Kerr, reminiscent of John Paxson in 93. Close quote.
Yep.
And if you remember the backstage, if you remember behind the scenes, all Michael did to Steve Kerr was look at him. He looked at him for a few seconds, and he didn't even have to complete his thought. He said, if Stockton comes, Kerr looked at him and said, I'll knock it down.
I'll knock it down.
And he knocked it down.
And to add to that story, Jordan set that up.
He sure did.
Because with the penetration early, he kept it and he scored. So he knew it was coming. Jordan knew it was coming.
He did.
And that's the thing. Jordan knew the double was coming. And that was the play he wanted to make. He was like, okay, I want you to double because it will be easier to have a guy who's wide open. Because I mean, yeah, I could take my guy 1-on-1 as he proved the next year.
Brian Russell
with his own championship winning shot.
Brian Russell. You think Brian Russell don't have nightmares about that shot?
Oh, good Lord, man.
So
he probably still to this day, 22 years later, curses the Jazz deck.
So who do you think we'll close with this question and take it off the bronze sexuals for a few minutes and put it where it's supposed to be, the person whom you and I think is the greatest player to ever do it, Michael Jeffrey Jordan. Who had more nightmares, Craig Elo or Brian Russell?
Considering that I think it happened to him a second time, Craig Elo. And I love Craig Elo. He was a former Rocket, so I love Elo. I love Elo, and he actually was a really good player. It is so heartbreaking to me that he's become a Jordan footnote. I feel for the man, but he is a Jordan footnote because when you mention Craig Elo, you always think about the shot, Game 5, 1988?
May 7th, 1989. I'll never forget that date. May 7th, 1989 is the day.
1989 first round
and
shot.
I hate to say it about Elo because I've liked Elo and his defensive play. Take a lesson, LeBron. I liked his defensive play, but when you're playing the greatest to ever do it, it's like, this is how I describe that shot. Jordan went up, Elo went up. Elo came down.
Jordan stayed up.
And he says, oh, look at this. I got a clean look. So when you get that clean of a look, you don't have a choice but to knock it down.
Yeah. So, I mean,
and there was,
I don't have to say
there was Doug Collins jumping around all over the place.
Oh, that was hilarious. I always found that funny. I was like, okay, he's looking. If the ground could come up and hug him, he would hug the floor. He was looking to praise somebody.
Oh, and one final note: Brian Russell and Craig Elo, they wore the same number.
Oh, they sure did.
They wore the same. When Jordan victimized them both, they wore the same number.
Well, they sure did.
And I'd rather have, if I was going to get victimized by the greatest to ever do it, please do it on the stage of the World Championship Series and just put me out of my misery. Please. Because at least in that competition, you're facing the best of the best of the best.
Yeah. And look, I have to add this name. I love him. He gave me a ring. He gave me a ring for my team in 1995, but I still think to this day he has a little bit of a nightmare fetish too. Clyde Drexler. That first half, Game 1, 1992. NBA Finals/World Championship Series. When Jordan just was unconscious.
He lit them up. He lit them up. He lit them up.
I always loved that after the 6th 3-pointer he made in that half, when he just looked to the front court. Looked to the courtside fans, and he just put his two arms up like, "Hey, I can't explain it." And I was looking at that game. I was in North Carolina at the time, actually.
There you
looking
go.
At that game, and I was just in awe. I was like, "Man, this guy is on another planet. Look at him. There's no defense with this guy. None. Zero. and the talk only minutes leading into that game was, who's the best shooting guard? Is it Clyde Drexler?
Is it Clyde Drexler or Michael Jordan? And I love Clyde. I love Clyde.
I love Clyde too. I love Clyde too. Followed him ever since he was
another University Phi Slamma Jamma. Another University of Houston player. I mean, love Clyde. Love Olajuwon. Here's a name for you, Larry Mishaw. There you go. Michael Young.
Young, Mr. Mean.
Yep, but it's just when Clyde and MJ went at it on the world stage in the World Championship Series, you just had this feeling that Jordan was going to do something stupid. And I mean that in a very good way.
In a good way.
It was game one. It was in Chicago Stadium. You know, Chicago's in its own world because we're back in the World Championship Series. So we're all going nuts.
Okay, I know you all
we're all getting our snacks and ready. And it's like it became a June tradition. It's the month of June, and the Bulls are in the World Championship Series. All right, let's get a snack and let's stay home and see what happens. But didn't you get the feeling?
I could tell you from experience, North Carolina was similar to Chicago.
I know it was. I know it was. It's like, okay, it's a tradition now. Here comes our tradition.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But you get the feeling when you watch players like Julius Erving, Michael Jordan, Moses Malone, Clyde Drexler, Akeem Olajuwon, Robert Parrish, Kevin McHale, Larry Bird, Magic Johnson. When you watch legends, you get the feeling that there's going to be one game that they're going to do something outrageous. I call 35 points and a half with 6 3-point goals a little outrageous.
It's like to borrow an old school hip hop reference in song. It's like what Run DMC said in Peter Piper. Not bad meaning bad, but bad meaning good.
Close this out with another line that you love to use and that you told me about these bronze sexuals. Something about we ended it before they knew what to do with it. Close us out with that, please.
All right. Listen, bronze sexuals. Basketball began long before 2003. It began long before this guy from Akron wowed everybody with his athletic prowess. And the things that he has done, it has not surpassed anything we have seen before. Now, there's been some things that he has equaled, but not a lot of them. But there's been many things that others have still surpassed him in doing who played before him. And we name many of those players. I'll even go further back. Jerry West, Elgin Baylor, Bill Russell,
Wes Unseld,
Gus Johnson,
Willis Reed, Jack Sigma,
Earl Monroe, Clyde Frazier,
Gail Goodrich.
Gail Goodrich. And that's before we get to George Gervin and Pete Maravich,
right?
And those likes. And then that's before it gets to our fandom. We got the chance to see Julius Erving in the second half of his career, and Kareem Abdul-Jabbar in the second half of his, and this 20-year-old wunderkind who simply knew how to play all 5 positions by the name of Irvin Johnson, but we didn't call him Irvin, we called him Magic.
We called him Magic.
And then he got a chance to revive the NBA and make it to be the stalwart league that it is now. The crumbs that still he, the king, eats off of because of those two, with him and Larry Bird. And that's even before the love affair that we've had with Jordan. Began. Not even enjoyed, began. So that is to say to all you guys, you bronze sexuals, definitely. You see, when it comes to NBA knowledge, with you fools, Brian and I, we were through with it before you learned what to do with it.
Amen, brother. I love you, and thank you for the time.
I love you too, bro. Thank you, man, for the time. I appreciate it.
We were through with it before you bronze sexuals knew what to do with it, which leads to our question of the day, and we head to hour 2. Here's your question. What was your favorite Michael Jordan moment? Yeah, I sound like my hero Jim Durham talking about Bulls Beat. Chicagoans remember that show? But again, our question of the day, what was your favorite Michael Jordan moment? Hour 2 after this. You may have noticed I made a couple of changes here, and I have housed everything under Snowman Digital Media. SnowmanInTheMorning.com is still alive, but there are some changes to it. You only hear parts of some interviews that I have now, but if you want to hear the rest, why don't you do me a favor and become a member of the SnowmanInTheMorning.com website. All it'll cost you is $10 per month, and not only will you get some full interviews and some full hilarious interviews, but you'll get proxy to some video that I'm putting together and a few surprises that I won't release to the public just yet. It'll only cost you $10 a month. You go to snowmaninthemorning.com and you click on the button register for this website, or look in the menu that says join the website.
This is Snowman in the Morning, where true sports talk lives.
I like him. He's silly.
I have a question, and it's a very serious one. Let's talk some football here during this hour. Dak Prescott. Many believe that he deserves the money that he is seeking. In fact, a very dear friend of mine, Philip Robinson, says he, quote unquote, deserves whatever the market bears. At the very least, he should be in the ballpark of his contemporaries, namely Goff and Wentz, neither of whom may deserve their contracts either, close quote. Very good point. So I responded and I said, so Dak doesn't deserve it? Philip says, quote, he does. It's just his time. The NFL market doesn't guarantee the best gets paid the most. Shifting gears, forget Dak. If I'm the Cowboys, I pay him. But Cooper, I would not have. And I said I'll trust Amari before I trust Dak. Well, it's time to answer the question. Does Dak deserve $30-some-odd million? Hell no. No, and no. Dak wants $40 million per year annually? Why? What in the world has he done to deserve that kind of contract? You're kidding me, right? But he's probably going to get his contract anyway. But I say he doesn't deserve it. And I hate to be as simple as what has he done lately, but yeah. Let's see. 2-time Pro Bowler, all-rookie team, NFL Offensive Rookie of the Year, why? NFL Rookie of the Year 2016, why? First team All-SEC 2014, 2015. Now that's when I liked him. I liked him at Mississippi State. He just hasn't done a doggone thing since he's been with the Cowboys. Career stats: 65% completion percentage, 15,778 yards, 97 touchdowns, 36 interceptions, a 97 passer rating, 1,221 rushing yards, 21 rushing touchdowns. Yeah. And all that means not a doggone thing when it comes to the Dallas Cowboys. And I will explain with basically only one reason. I can put a few in here, but I'll use only one reason why he doesn't deserve the money. The reason I think he doesn't deserve the money is this, and it's pretty simple. Dak Prescott's numbers are inflated. Oh, you didn't know? Oh, you didn't hear me? Let me say it again. Dak Prescott's numbers, as gaudy as they are inflated. Here's what I mean. Most of Dak Prescott's passing yards have come when games have been out of reach. Some of the stats Dak Prescott has put up have come when the game has long since been decided. Give example. Thanksgiving Day, 2019. Dak puts up 380 yards. Unfortunately, the Cowboys got their tails kicked by the Buffalo Bills at home, and the game was long over before Dak Prescott decided to try to rally the Cowboys. That's what I mean. There have been so many games that Dak Prescott has played where he would look good in the first half, and then a turnover would happen. And some of it is by his own doing. He's only thrown 21 interceptions. True. But how many of those have come in key moments? How many of those have come in moments where everyone expected the Cowboys to win? How many of those came in a playoff game? Oops, did I mention that? Yeah, I did. Dak's only won one playoff game, and he's 4 years deep. Now, if the Cowboys were smart, if they want to pay Dak Prescott, they'd also pay an offensive line. They'd also pay a couple of tight ends who can block that are not named Jason Witten. Nothing against you, Jason Witten. He had a great career, but it's time for him to hang it up. Cowboys would go young. They got it right when they paired Prescott with Ezekiel Elliott. They got that right. I'll give you that. It's a great situation. And now they have paid Elliott, they have paid Cooper, but they haven't paid Dak. Hold off on paying him. Franchise him. If I were the Cowboys, this is what I would do. I'd franchise him. A lot of people are not going to like this opinion. This is not going to be the popular opinion, but I don't care. I don't use stats. I use my eyes when I watch him. What I see with my eyes is Prescott would be good at times and horrible at others. Sometimes, listen to me carefully, sometimes his decision-making is skittish. Very, very skittish. If there's one thing that Dak Prescott has yet to solve, it's a blitz. And I mean solve it consistently. You can say the same thing about one Jimmy Garoppolo, but hey, Jimmy Garoppolo had weapons with him. What does Dak Prescott have, save Ezekiel Elliott and Amari Cooper? Does he have anything else to throw to? Anyone else to throw to besides Amari Cooper? If Ezekiel Elliott learned how to catch out of the backfield, then Prescott would be in business. I'll say it again. I love Ezekiel Elliott as a runner, but y'all know one of my favorite running backs of all time is that of Roger Craig. Dak Prescott is average at best. When Ezekiel Elliott was suspended, did he do that well? No. Did he actually do something when he didn't have his main weapons with him? No. I'm sorry, but no. And only one playoff appearance. This is a perpetual 8-8 team, and I'm talking about the Dallas Cowboys. If you want to go from top to bottom and see where the problem is, we all know what the problem is in the front office. But if you really want to see what the problem is on the field, especially with your offense, take a look at the quarterback. Take a look at the quarterback and tell me why he deserves $40 million a year. That may be the going rate. And I also said that Wentz and Goff doesn't deserve their contracts either. And of course they got them. Matt Ryan, same thing. Although Matt Ryan does have a Super Bowl appearance under his belt. But I'm sorry. I am sorry. I don't trust Dak Prescott. And if you're a Cowboy fan, you wouldn't either. They'd have done better with Teddy Bridgewater under center. And I know Prescott's a youngin', and he's got a lot more to prove, and I get that. I really do. I'm having a little bit of fun here. But if I were the Cowboys, I'd franchise him. I would franchise him and make him prove it. Make him prove that he's worth the investment of $40 million a year. And the way that you make him prove that he's worth the investment goes beyond the stats. Have him lead your team to another division title. Have him lead your team to an NFC championship game. Have him lead your team to the promised land. Have him lead your team to a Super Bowl victory. They didn't have to franchise Aikman because Jimmy Johnson was in charge and Johnson knew what he can do. Mike McCarthy doesn't know what Dak Prescott can do. Well, let me change that statement. He would know what Prescott can do, But Dak Prescott ain't Aaron Rodgers. And this is me heaping praise on a quarterback that I can't stand in the form of Aaron Rodgers. But numbers are one thing, eyesight is another, and I've seen Aaron Rodgers do some things. I haven't seen Dak Prescott do some things. Slap the franchise tag on him. Make him prove himself. Make him prove himself. And if you really want to go deep, I'll take a piece of advice that my friend Adam Cook said. Make him prove what he's worth without his weapons. When Zeke was out for 6 games, Dak Prescott sucked. Period. I'll say it again. And I know I'm going to get pushback from this, but I don't care. Like I said, I actually watch the games, and I make my opinions from what I see. And when Dak Prescott does not have Ezekiel Elliott or a good receiver to throw to who is not named Amari Cooper or Jason Witten, Dak Prescott sucks. Ezekiel Elliott needs to learn to catch the ball out of the backfield better. That's one of the reasons I love folks like Barry Sanders and Walter Payton and Roger Craig and Thurman Thomas. They can catch the ball out of the backfield. So if they get Ezekiel Elliott to be more of a flair and actually throw him the ball and Zeke actually catches it and makes some big yards and have him do it early in the game, not when the game's already decided or when the game's on the line, then maybe, just maybe, I'll trust Dak Prescott. But as for now, nope. He does not deserve the money he is seeking. Slap a franchise tag on him and tell him to prove it. Because as far as the Snowman is concerned, he hasn't proved a doggone thing. At least not yet. I'll leave that door open. I have been proven wrong before. Lord knows I have been proven wrong before. But that's why we love and miss sports so much. Once again, slap a franchise tag on him, make him prove himself this year, and if he does, then you pay him. That's Snowman's take. What's yours? Take a time out, but after the break, you'll hear an old episode of a Transition Tuesday that I had a chance to do with one Russ Williams. And we'll get that segment going again toward the end of the month. But you'll hear a classic version of it when you all get back in the deuce. folks, Brian Snow here, and thanks for listening to this program. Want to hear and see more of it? All you have to do is go to the growing website we like to call Snowman Digital Media. The address you need is snowmandigitalmedia.com. Follow us on social media by punching in SNW Digital Media for Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Snapchat, and Pinterest. Thanks, Dr. K, for that idea.
This is Snowman in the Morning, where true sports talk lives.
He did what? I did not need to be told that.
Welcome back to the program, folks. Don't forget that you can hit us on all of our social media using the ID SNW Digital Media. That's SNW Digital Media for Facebook, Snapchat, Instagram, Twitter, and Pinterest. And speaking of having some great guests on the show that we distribute through all of our social media, don't forget to check out our Patreon as well. Uncle Smoothie is back. Chris Williams has joined me. How are you, my friend?
What's happening, partner? Thank you so much for bringing me back. I must be doing something well.
Yeah, you're doing a lot of things well. Man, listen, all right, this is the one of the few times where I'm going to be a fan. What the hell happened?
All right, well, there's a lot going on. What the hell happened concerning, be more specific for me. A little bit more specific, man.
With our
There's
sports,
a lot you can say that too.
I know. Boy, isn't that the truth? That's a conversation for later. That's probably a conversation for Snowman Unfiltered, and that's a shameless plug, as you all know. But the sports world has ground to a halt for very good reason.
Yes.
Don't get me wrong. Very good reason.
No doubt.
But damn it, I'm a fan.
No doubt. Well, you know what? Right now, obviously, safety comes first.
Indeed.
But guys like you and myself who love sports, right now, I'm a little bit more, I'm still active. I can play a little bit here and there. So it's a tough time. It's so tough, man.
Yeah, it is.
Only thing we can really kind of sink our teeth in is a little bit of football news.
Yeah.
But, during this time period, there's so much that's usually going on. So we're in a tough spot.
I miss March Madness so much.
Listen, Snowman, I am so disappointed from that aspect. I did the last basketball game on ESPN as a color commentator of the 2020 season.
Yeah.
I did a MAC tournament game, Siena versus Fairfield, which was the last game that they shut everything down with.
Yeah.
So during that time period, everyone was just so disappointed. The atmosphere in the arena was so down, Snowman.
Yeah.
The players, parents, coaches, people working in the arena, because obviously we didn't know what was going on.
Right.
And we had just heard that a number of tournaments were shut down. I believe that day, the Big East tournament at halftime had shut down. We finished up our game, which was the last one. No fans.
Yeah.
So that wasn't a great atmosphere to begin with, but we thought we would at least be able to get through it. So you just know everyone was so disappointed, and the faces on those young people was, it was the worst.
I bet. I saw the report. I saw the reports flying in. When I checked out of work,
yes.
I saw the reports flying in. Big East was canceled. Big Ten was canceled.
Correct.
Pac-12 was canceled. I mean, the cancellations were flying in by the second.
Yes, they were. I believe the MAC conference was the last one to cancel.
The last one.
Therefore, we were the last game that was played, which was a tournament game, obviously, to try to figure out who would go to the NCAA tournament.
Yes.
And nothing conspired, and everybody was just so disappointed.
Yeah.
They had to shut everything down.
It's disappointing, but it's a safety issue, and when you have a safety issue, you have to take every precaution necessary. And I say it on this show.
And you're dealing with young people who are amateurs. I think that's important to note also. And you have to take that in consideration.
You have to take everything into consideration, especially the safety of the fans, the safety of the players. It was thought of by the NCAA that they were going to have the tournament games without fans, which would have been a weird atmosphere, and you experienced that.
It would have been very weird, but at least we would have had it.
Yeah.
And I've seen reports and I've read up, just doing a little bit of research on it after everything was canceled.
Yep.
A number of people were looking forward to at least trying to get the tournament going.
At least the first four in Dayton. At least the first four in Dayton. But if you don't have the fans and if you don't have the players and this pandemic spreads and in a closed area, it could spread very, very fast, and it could also bring a lot of panic, which is why Adam Silver shut the NBA down, postponed the season, and said we're going to make sure we help the country get this under control first before we resume any games. And he's looking into arena availability come August because he wants to get this season complete. Which brings this question to you: do we start over with the NBA, or do we complete this season? Your thoughts?
I really think we complete the season if it comes to that point. A number of players are putting a lot of hard work, coaches and all these groups, and you want to try to finish up something that you started. I don't think it would be fair to start over until you start a new season.
Fair enough.
So I would be a fan of starting exactly where you stopped off, because you have the number of players who've had really good years. You know, you have that MVP race, and I've seen you go back and forth. Well, actually, you know what? I haven't seen you go back and forth. I know you have a clear-cut winner.
Yeah, and it's Giannis.
Obviously, people want to throw their hat in that ring also. So I would like to see it start where it ended, in my opinion.
Yeah. You want to pick it up where you left off, and get some questions answered. Can Milwaukee finally complete the picture and get their first NBA title since 1974?
Yes.
Can the Los Angeles Lakers get their first title since 2010? Those are the two big storylines. Can the Golden State Warriors swing a trade for Karl Anthony Towns and get themselves back in the competition and have a good end to this
Snowman,
season?
I like it.
I'm just getting started. Can the Warriors swing a trade for Karl Anthony Towns and bait Minnesota with Andrew Wiggins? And get them. Look, I put this rumor out there 2 weeks ago, and I think it's going to happen. Can the Houston Rockets use microball to get themselves to a title? My answer is no, but I know other people will say different. Let's go on.
Well, check it out.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're throwing a lot at me. Let me just jump on one. Can I jump on one, please?
Take a couple.
Because I love watching your Facebook feed. And if anyone doesn't know, the Snowman gives you a lot of good nuggets out there. And I sit back and watch and laugh and comment here or there.
Yeah.
But one I have to jump on. The Houston Rockets. I've never been a fan of the way they play. Unfortunately, because James Harden is so good of a one-on-one basketball player, he gets a lot of love, and I give him kudos for that. But there's no way the Rockets can win playing the way they play. And it's sad that we feed into it year in and year out. There's no way you can win playing like that, Snowman.
Amen.
And then you bring Westbrook over, and that just really just ruins him.
I'm glad I'm not the only one that thinks that.
Neither guy can do it by themselves. It's unfortunate.
And they've
So I
tried.
just want to tackle one of them.
And they've tried.
Oh, no, they tried. See, because the NBA season is so long, you're going to have games where guys are going to have big numbers. And they are that good where they can score a lot of points and be effective on certain nights.
Mm-hmm.
But in a 7-game series, when it becomes more close-knit, a grind-out type affair, the scouting reports are intense.
Yep.
There's no way you can play like that and beat someone in a 7-game series, especially if it's a good team when we get into the playoffs.
And Lord knows they've tried 4 of the last 5 years.
Yes.
They've run into Golden State, the kings of microball. But here's the difference between the way Golden State plays microball and the way Houston plays microball. Golden State spreads the ball around.
Right.
Golden State has had a big man.
There's movement.
Golden State has had a big man to depend on. Anybody remember Andrew Bogut? Anybody remember Kevin Durant? Anybody remember Zaza Pachulia? They ran the ball through Pachulia, and they've gotten some effective shots.
And they play better motion offense, whereas the Houston Rockets play ISO basketball.
Yep.
So there should be an argument from someone who's listening who say, well, listen, Snowman Smooth, how dare you say that? The year they had Chris Paul, they took the Warriors to a 7th game.
Yeah,
and you're exactly right. Because of Chris Paul, who's a solid point guard who understands how to play playoff basketball. That's why they were that close, and they possibly could have beaten the Warriors that year.
No.
But not with Russell Westbrook doing what he does.
I say no with Chris Paul, and here's why. They should have closed them out. I'm speaking of the Rockets. In 2018,
and 6.
they get a 3-2 lead. They hold the Warriors to under 100 points in Houston in Game 5. They should have closed them out in Oakland in Game 6.
Oh, yes, they should have. You're right. I totally agree.
An 11-point lead at halftime, and you only put up 25 points in the second half, and you get mauled.
The bottom line is it comes down to the isolations.
Yep.
And when that game was closed out, you were going to Harden and letting them go one-on-one.
Mm-hmm.
And it's tough. It's tough to do that in the playoff series.
It is.
Because night in and night out, everybody's going to make adjustments. That's the one great thing about professional sports. You're not going to continue to get over on your talent and your athleticism. Somebody's going to make the adjustment.
Yeah.
We see it in all sports: football, basketball, Lamar Jackson. Nobody can catch up. Somebody's going to catch up with you sooner or later.
Oh, yeah.
It's going to happen.
The Tennessee Titans caught up with him and made him a one-dimensional player.
It happens. It happens.
On a Saturday night, they made him a one-dimensional player, which is the one thing I was afraid of with that Tennessee defense. You know, the Warriors made the Rockets one-dimensional, while the Warriors did not. And here's the biggest difference. In the series in 18 and 19, the Rockets had the Warriors down, but did the Warriors go away from what they do best? No.
Never. Well, it was a championship pedigree that they established. And it's in their DNA. They stuck with what was well for them, and it worked. They won championships doing it. The Rockets haven't done it yet, so I don't understand why they're going to stick with it. And it's unfortunate that D'Antoni continues and consistently gets a job in the league. I can't get it.
I don't really, get it
either. I'm not one of those guys who advocates for people getting fired, but I just don't understand how year in and year out this man has a gig in the NBA.
I don't get it either. You know who should be coaching the Rockets right now, but it'll never happen? Kenny Atkinson.
It probably will not. And he's a very good coach.
It ain't going to happen for two very simple reasons. James Harden and Russell Westbrook. Just like Kyrie Irving, and I'll get to him in a moment. Just like Kyrie Irving.
Oh, yeah.
Just like Kyrie Irving and Kevin Durant got him out of Brooklyn. And the Brooklyn Nets should still be the New Jersey Nets, but I digress.
Oh, my man, Snowman. Well, check this out. Let's make this clear. The NBA is a players' league. They run the league. Those guys decide on who should be their coach, what they're going to do. In most cases, again, I've been in some NBA huddles.
Yep.
Whatever play that's run by the coach is decided by those players once they get on the floor.
True.
Huge Philly fan, you know, I'm born and raised in Philly, loved Allen Iverson. But the story was always that Allen Iverson did his own thing. Larry Brown would run some excellent plays.
Mm-hmm.
But once these guys get on the floor, this guy goes solo.
Yeah.
But he's so good, it works.
Yeah, it works. It works.
It works.
For a while, it was Michael Jordan.
Now, the type of coach that usually works in the NBA for teams that are trying to get across that hurdle, a coach who's won a championship. Obviously, there's not that many of them out there. Those are the guys who put their foot down and demand certain guys and certain teams to do what needs to be done because they can always bring that ring into their face.
Yep. And Larry Brown tried to do it with Allen Iverson.
Yeah, that's a tough one.
Yeah.
That was a tough one.
You know, and you know what's crazy? Michael Jordan was that way for a while, and then Phil Jackson showed up and put his foot down. But the difference being, and I love Allen Iverson. Don't get me wrong, love Allen Iverson.
Same here. Let's make that clear. Like I said, born and raised in Philly, I would always jokingly tell people, Allen Iverson can take 4 guys off the street and win a couple of games in the league with us. That's how good he was.
But again, Michael Jordan was Allen Iverson for a while until Phil Jackson showed up. The only difference being Michael Jordan was willing to listen, and it made him better, and it made him greater. Broadsexuals, listen carefully. 2 things Michael Jordan did that made him greater. He was willing to listen, and he implemented everything that Phil Jackson put in his head. Because Mike knew, especially with the Detroit Pistons, it was a mind game more than a physical game.
Yes, indeed.
The Pistons made it physical. Indeed. Michael Jordan made it mental, especially in 1991 when the Bulls swept the Detroit Pistons. And what happens when you have a leader willing to listen to a coach? It filters down into the teammates. Just ask Stephen Curry. Just ask Klay Thompson. Just ask Steve Kerr. Steve Kerr played with Michael Jordan.
Yes, he did.
Steve
They
Kerr
shot
played with
Kerr.
MJ.
I can't remember what year was that, Snowman.
1997.
Kerr knocks down that mid-range jumper.
1997.
Jordan called that in the huddle before they came out.
Yep. And Michael just looked at Steve and said, "You be ready." And Steve looked at him back and said, "I'll be ready to knock it down." And he knocked it down. When you have teammates like that, and I'm leading right into Kyrie Irving with this, folks, and a lot of people are going to be upset with me, but I don't care. I've discussed this on my show. You've heard me discuss this on my show.
Let's hear it.
The Kyrie experiment in Brooklyn needs to end now.
Well, I'm just going to toss this out as a debate point, which I love. It hasn't started yet. I agree with you. I don't think it's going to go well. But we like to see both of them on the floor because as a star, when you become a superstar, in my opinion, is when you understand you have to share. You have to share, and sometimes you have to take a step back and sacrifice. I want to see both of them on the floor together and see what happens. But that's the area where most stars have a problem. Understanding they have to share and sacrifice some of their game to make others better.
Which is why I feel right now the Nets won't win a darn thing, because you have a player in Kyrie Irving that won't share. Talk to LeBron James about that.
Well, we haven't seen him and KD together yet. You got to give him the benefit of the doubt.
No, I will not.
Fairness to him.
In fairness. You want to talk about fairness? Yeah. He had 2 years to be the leader in Boston, and it went sideways.
Agree. What I believe happened in Boston, Kyrie comes in, he wants to be the alpha male, and those young guys, Brown and Tatum, those guys were very, very good. I don't think he realized how good they were. And they had done so much the previous year.
Yep.
And they were basically like, listen, man, we can't take a step backwards just because you came here.
Right.
We still need to shine. Jason Tatum is going to be an MVP candidate before it's all said and done.
Next year.
He's that good.
I'm calling it right now. Next year, he will be an MVP candidate.
Yes. And I don't think he needed to be a sidekick. And
no.
Kyrie learned that early on. And another issue we haven't touched on, Kyrie's injury prone.
That's obvious.
You got to be able to play 82 games or at least come out and show me I'm the leader. I can sustain my body, being able to tell you what to do and being able to do it myself and be out there able to play. And he hasn't done that for a full season in a while.
I don't think he's done it. I don't think he's done it in the last 7 years.
I don't even think he's done it his entire career.
I don't think he's done it in the league. I don't think Kyrie's played a full 82 games since he's been in the league. Right. Hell, he didn't even play a full season at Duke. He played 11 games.
Right. Well, I said throughout his entire career, he's been very injury prone. Now, for him, what he's excellent at, he's a huge, big-time player in closing moments. He does well when the lights are on. He closes out games, but he's a one-on-one guy. He likes to pass the rock. Mm-hmm. He'll give it a headache. But when you're playing with other good players, they need to touch it also.
You know what? I made
and that's why Kemba Walker is a much better fit for the Celtics.
I love Kemba Walker. Love Kemba Walker as a fit in Boston. I made this argument on my show, and I want to get your thoughts. The same big-time shot that made Kyrie Irving also broke him. And I'm talking about the shot he hit in 2016 to beat Golden State and win the title. That shot made him, and the next season broke him because he got
Explain
cooked.
How it broke him. I need to get a little bit more insight on how it broke him.
In simplest terms, he got cooked in 5 games. He got absolutely blistered because the Warriors figured out what to do. They sent different people at him, and Kyrie couldn't handle it. Kyrie could not handle it. It wasn't just Stephen Curry guarding Kyrie Irving. That's the match. If you're Kyrie, that's the matchup you want. You don't want to see Klay Thompson.
No question about it. You want that matchup, yes.
You don't want to see Klay Thompson. You don't want to see Andre Iguodala. You definitely don't want to see Kevin Durant. It was a height difference. See, Kerr figured out, okay, it's going to be a height difference. So let me send
you need
three
some
bigger
you need some
players.
length and athleticism on a guy like Kyrie.
Yeah, and Andre Iguodala baked him in an oven in 2 games in the 2 games in Oakland, especially the final game. And I love the fact that Steph got his revenge, and that's a selfish pleasure for me when Steph brought the ball through his legs, wrapped it around him, got Kyrie one way, leaned the other way, and banged home a 3 that clinched the title. And, and Steph just looked back and said, we're even. Okay, we're even.
Right.
So, and then Kyrie was out of there.
Let's take a little bit of the emotional bias out of it, because it sounds as though you're a Warriors fan. So I'm gonna squeeze a little bit out of you from that standpoint. In fairness to Kyrie, again, I like this advocate that I'm playing here. Kind of reminds me of First Take, what we're doing here. So Kyrie, exceptional one-on-one player. That's what he does well. So at the end of games in the NBA, you don't need to call a play for him. Give him an ISO.
Sure. I'll give you that.
Clear out a side for him. He's going to get to the basket or get a shot that he wants.
I'll give you that.
Which he did to close out. Right, which he did to close out the championship season that one year.
Yes.
I don't know the years. I know you're good with numbers.
2016.
We talked about how teams, at the NBA level, NFL level, at the professional level, make adjustments.
Yes.
Warriors make their adjustments. Understand you need to put some length on him.
Mm-hmm.
You need to put some height on him, some athleticism on him. He's still a very good one-on-one player, but
Truth.
him not understanding that he needs to share, he could have made other people better.
So do you think that
But
happens
I think
in Brooklyn?
that selfish mentality
Yeah.
is still in his head. I can close this out on my own. Because at that stage, LeBron wasn't even the closer
No.
for the Cavaliers.
No,
they
he
would
wasn't.
allow Kyrie to close out games.
And that was the move that the Cavaliers needed to make. They needed to build around Kyrie. And if you really want to think about it, when LeBron returned, that deflated him. When LeBron returned to Cleveland, that deflated Kyrie because for 3 years, they built around Kyrie Irving. They built around him.
Right.
And then LeBron comes back, some people go packing, and then Kyrie's going, now what the hell do I do?
Well, there was certainly some alpha male issues with Kyrie and LeBron.
Mm-hmm.
I think Kyrie, after making the shot in that first championship season, was basically, I'm an alpha. I really believe I can have my own team. I know Kyrie had a really great relationship with Kobe. I think maybe some of those discussions were there.
Yeah.
But I don't think he was mentally prepared to have his own team. We saw it firsthand in Boston.
Yeah.
It's more than just what you do on the floor. We talked about him not being able to go an entire season without being injured. And all this plays out.
And being a leader
how he
in the
handled
locker
the
room.
media on certain occasions, certain things he said. He hadn't grown and matured to the point to be an alpha. And we haven't seen just yet now if he can be the alpha in Brooklyn.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm giving him the benefit of the doubt. I think it's a growth process. I think it's part of your maturity. But if you want to be the true superstar that we believe you can be, you have to make other people better.
And he hasn't
You have to
yet.
make me feel good about my game, make me feel good about making shots, make me feel good about being on the floor at the end with you. If you can't do it, can I feel comfortable enough to know, Kyrie, you'll get me the ball, and if I make it, you're happy for me. A la Ron Artest, Metta World Peace, Kobe gives him the shot, he knocks down a 3, and he jokingly says, Kobe, pass me the ball.
Yeah, 2010. And that sealed the championship.
Right.
That's
you
the
have to make
biggest difference.
other guys, other players around you feel good about what they bring to the table.
I'll close with this point. I've had so many people dive into my argument of LBJ versus MJ, and I said the biggest difference is Michael Jordan made his teammates better. And I've had people argue with me, well, LeBron's made his teammates better. Okay, let me pose a question to you. Has LeBron ever had that much confidence in Kyrie where Kyrie would knock down the winning shot and people would throw 2016 at me? And I say Kyrie did that on his own. He didn't do that, with the push from LeBron that LeBron was supposed to give him. Steve Kerr is a different story. Steve Kerr had the confidence from MJ after Kerr missed a big shot in Game 4. Game 6 at the United Center, Mike looked at Steve, and Steve looked back at Michael, and Steve said, I'll knock down the shot, and Steve knocked down the shot. That's a big difference. Right. For me, that's a huge, huge difference. That's Uncle Smoothie, Chris Williams, talking a little hoops with yours truly, the Snowman. Tell everybody where they can find you, my friend.
My man Snowman, is always a pleasure. They can find me on Instagram, Hear Chris Speak, Twitter, Hear Chris Speak, and if you're still on Facebook, like the older ones like you and myself, Chris B. Last name Williams, WILLIAMS.
All right.
Now, Snowman, you have to let me give a rebuttal on that last point.
Go ahead.
I got to come back on the last point because I love your emotional bias. We know you love the Bulls. We know you love Chicago.
You know, that's my hometown. That's my hometown. I got to bring that up. All right, finish it.
Now check this out. In all honesty, both guys make people better. LeBron has always made other people better, and that's been his knock. He's always played the game the right way. The difference between those two is Michael is a certified killer. He goes for the neck, smells blood, and he will not let you go. LeBron, more, okay, you know what, I'll let you play for a little bit. Let's make it competitive and see if I can do something here. No, Michael wants to snuff you out. I love the way Chauncey Billups made the comparison of the two. He said the difference between the two is no one could eat when Michael was on his watch. He kept so many superstars away from winning a championship.
Yes.
Ewing, Barkley, all these guys. None of these guys sniffed it when Michael was on his watch because he wanted to step on your neck. And as Chauncey said, everybody eats during LeBron's reign. So I'm going to sum it up that way.
And there's truth to that. Shout to Chauncey Billups with that.
There, I love that, man.
Mr. Big Shot himself, Chauncey Billups with that quote. Thanks a lot, my friend. I really appreciate it.
Last one, Snowman. I can't let you go without this. Give me a little bit of Dave Zinkoff since you went into announcers.
And
can I get the doc?
Forward from University of Massachusetts, captain of the Eastern Conference Championship team, Julius the Dr. Irving.
That's my Philly fam. Each time we talk, we got to close out with that. That's classic.
Gotta have Zink to close it out. And I got some old Sixer games when they used to be on CBS. I got some of those now in my library, and I'm loving it. Thanks a lot, my friend. I truly appreciate the time.
I appreciate it, partner. Thank you so much.
More for you in a deuce. It's time for some Taco Tuesday trivia. That's right. Here's the question for you. Gonna talk a little baseball, Major League style. Goes like this. Who is the only player to turn an unassisted triple play to end the game? We'll give you the answer after the break. You back already? Okay, here's the answer to the trivia question. Who was the only player in Major League Baseball history to turn an unassisted triple play to end the game? Got to go back to 2009, Citi Field. You look at the Philadelphia Phillies roster as they were playing the Mets. You'll find the name Eric Bruntlett. Brad Lidge was on the mound converting what was an impossible situation that turned into a save on one pitch. As the pitch was lined right to Bruntlett, he stepped on the bag for the second out and then tagged Daniel Murphy for the final out of the game. That's your Taco Tuesday trivia. I got to take a break.
Snowman in the Morning, where true sports talk lives.
He did what? I did not need to be told that.
I find it appropriate that we close with a baseball conversation because, well, there ain't no baseball right now. But the conversation I want to have with my friend Rick Curdy, who joins me right now, is about one Barry Bonds. I gave my thoughts, and I'm going to allow him to give his, which kind of coincide with each other. First of all, Rick Curdy, welcome to the program. How are you?
Thanks, Snowman. How are you?
I'm doing good. You and I share a common denominator and a common thought. Yep. And it goes like this. If you cheated and get caught, you get the punishment you deserve. It was taught to me by the two fellows who got me into baseball, my grandfather and my father, and not just about sports, but in life. If you cheated and you get caught, you deserve some punishment. Just ask the Houston Astros. Just ask Roger Clemens. And once upon a time, I loved Roger Clemens. I've said that on this program. I absolutely loved Roger Clemens. He was one of my favorite pitchers that didn't pitch for the Chicago White Sox. Okay? But he, Rafael Palmeiro, Mark McGwire, Sammy Sosa, Barry Bonds especially, all a part of that steroid era, and I hope none of them get into the Hall of Fame. I promised I'd give you the floor to voice your opinions about what Barry Bonds said. And to repeat part of the quote, it goes like this. I feel like I've been given a death sentence. That's what Barry Bonds said after he was, according to him, forced into retirement when no one else would pick him up after he played his last game with the Giants, and also basically hasn't been heard from since. I don't think you've been given a death sentence, Barry Bonds. I just think they shoved you out of MLB because you were cheating the system and you got busted doing it. And from that, I say ... Rick Curdy, the floor is yours.
Well, thanks, Snowman. That's something we do have in common. Barry Bonds is an idiot. He's always been egotistical. He's always been all about himself. Teammates couldn't stand him. Just go ask Jeff Canton, couldn't stand him when they were teammates together with the Giants. And so it's just, he's pathetic. He's a pathetic human being. You know, he broke one of the most historic records in all of sports in Hank Aaron's home run record, who I believe is still the home run champion. MLB and the owners knew about it, including Bud Selig, did nothing about it. He broke this record, never would have broken it without the steroids because he never was a 40 to 50 or 60 to 70 home run hitter. 20, 30 was what he used to hit before the steroids, when he was a great player. And it was all done out of jealousy. He was jealous of Mark McGwire and Sammy Sosa getting the attention. He wanted the attention and started juicing up. And, I mean, he looked like Lou Ferrigno coming in. It was obvious he was on steroids. And, you know, everyone's like, look at all these records he's breaking. Yeah, he cheated. He's cheating. And anybody that says that steroids has nothing to do with baseball or doesn't make you a better player is a complete and ignorant fool.
Yeah.
Because even Jose Canseco, who's the godfather of steroid use.
Yep.
And if you haven't read his book, Juice, it's a sensational book.
Yeah, it is.
He says that taking steroids makes a good player great and a great player fantastic. And it does. It's obvious. Mark McGwire was all back problems, couldn't hit anymore, he had massive back issues, and the A's got rid of him. And then lo and behold, now he's hitting 70 home runs. You know, I mean, give me a break. Sammy Sosa was never he was a nothing hitter. You know, he got traded to the Cubs for George Bell.
Yep.
It was like a steal, like, oh my God, I can't believe the White Sox got George Bell out of Sammy Sosa. And he started juicing up, and all of a sudden he started hitting 60 home runs. And of course, Barry Bonds was never, you know, he was a great hitter. He hit for average, hit for, you know, stole bases. I mean, he was already a phenomenal player, but he just couldn't help himself and loved the attention that McGwire and Sosa were getting. And started juicing up too, and they're just complete frauds. They're like the Chicago, White Sox of 1919, when they fixed games, to get extra money from the gamblers, and none of them ever got money, and the people got half of the money, and look at what happened now. They got banned from baseball, and you got Pete Rose here. He's a bet on his own team. I mean, how pathetic is that? You're the manager of a team, and you're betting against your own team. That's pathetic.
And they're making bids to try to get him in the Hall of Fame. They are making bids to get Pete Rose in the Hall of Fame. Now, after I did my segment and I gave my thoughts, I really had time to sit down and think about this, and I just went back to the old school. You cheated and you got caught, period. End of story.
Yeah. And Pete Rose lied about it for 20 years, wrote the idiotic book called, I love this title, My Prison Without Bars. And that's the name of his book, My Prison Without Bars. And I'm like, give me a break. He still lives in Las Vegas. He still gambles. The IRS actually were going to cut him a deal and pay out because he was so much in debt.
Yeah.
So not only was Pete Rose a gambler, he was not a very good gambler. He was always in debt. He was broke. And they were going to forgive all his debts. Just confess. Just that we know you did it. We have audio. We have evidence. We have eyewitness testimony. We have tape record. We got you. Just admit it that you bet on baseball and we'll cut you a break. And he refused. He refused. And we're not saying that he doesn't deserve it. Of course he deserves to be in the Hall of Fame. He's an all-time hit king.
Yes.
He's a great baseball player. We're just saying he doesn't deserve to go because of what he did. If you're going to put him in, put Shoeless Joe Jackson in.
Yeah.
Shoeless Joe Jackson should be in the Hall of Fame as well. And I'm a huge Shoeless Joe Jackson fan.
Yep.
His museum is only an hour away from Charlotte in Greenville, South Carolina. And, people say, we're trying to get him and I just say he doesn't deserve to be in the Hall of Fame because I don't believe that he took a dime on those games. I mean, he had 376 batting average, had the only home run in the World Series, but he knew about it. And that's what the rule says. If you do it or knowingly know about it, you are banned from baseball forever. That was what Kennesaw Montlander said. So not only did you bet, but if you knew people that were betting and didn't report it, you're just as bad as you were betting. So he shouldn't be in the Hall of Fame either. None of these steroid users should be in the Hall of Fame.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm glad that Major League Baseball is seeing that because now they're probably going to want to take it to the Veteran Committee. They're not going to allow it. There's no way in the world they're going to allow it because they're very old school. They look at them as like horrible people as I do. And to me, they cheated. They're like the Astros. They cheated.
Yeah, they absolutely did, and they should be punished accordingly. No Hall of Fame for Pete Rose. No Hall of Fame for Barry Bonds.
Barry Bonds, he gets to keep all his money. He's still the home run king.
Yep.
I mean, the man is rich beyond our wildest dreams. I mean, and now he's saying it was a death sentence. Give me a break. I mean, it's all about him. He's such an idiot. And he just wants to portray himself as the victim. He's never apologized. He comes up with these ridiculous excuses. I thought they were vitamin B shots. I mean, give me a break. Your head size grew.
Yeah. That's the biggest factor right there. I mean, look, he wore 24 when he was in Pittsburgh. You know my favorite 24? His last name was Griffey, as in Ken Griffey Jr.
Yeah.
Okay? Ken Griffey Jr. and Barry Bonds once upon a time were on the same playing field. Difference is, Ken Griffey Jr. did it the honest way and was damned and I believe should have been the first unanimous selection into the Hall of Fame. Period.
Mm-hmm.
Barry Bonds, who failed 3 straight times in the league championship series, lost in 6 to Cincinnati, lost in 7 to Atlanta, Cincinnati 1990, Atlanta 1991 and 1992. Both of those were 7-game losses. He never won a World Series. He came close in 2002, and had he won in 2002, you better believe there would be some asterisks next to it 2 years later, like they want to put the asterisks next to the Astros for their World Series championships, and I'm glad Washington beat them this past season, 2019. I'm so glad Washington beat them because as much of a fan as I was with the Astros, I was a bigger fan of Washington because when they appeared in 2005, I just got hooked on the Washington Nationals, good and bad, especially after they jettisoned Bryce Harper. But that's another conversation for another time. But if you cheat, you get caught. If you cheat and you get caught, you deserve to get punished. End of story. End of story.
Exactly.
And I'll say it again. I'll say it again. Loved Roger Clemens. The fact that he has 7 Cy Young awards, okay? Phenomenal. But at the same time, how many of those did he get honestly? How many of those Cy Young awards did he get honestly? How dangerous of a hitter.
He was breaking down already when the Red Sox got rid of him. He was already breaking down.
Yeah,
and that's why they got rid of him. And all of a sudden now he's like, throwing like 99 miles an hour, winning 20 games, and he made it look like the Red Sox should never give it up on me. Look at how good I am. Yeah, because you're cheating.
Yeah. I mean, how do you explain him breaking down in his tail end run with the Red Sox, like you said, and one of his last games was a phenomenal performance when he struck out 20 against the Detroit Tigers and couldn't strike out another batter. So then he gets traded to the Blue Jays. He bounces around. And the thing that I believe put the nail in the coffin for Roger Clemens, as crazy as this sounds, and y'all need to listen, hear me out. What put the nail in the coffin for Roger Clemens was 2005 when he faced off against Jermaine Dye, and Jermaine Dye hit a home run off of him in the World Series. No one else has hit a World Series home run off of Roger Clemens. After that, Roger Clemens was a done deal after surrendering that home run in 2005, and you never heard from him again. Ever.
Nope. Yeah, I agree. I mean, like I said, they're cheaters and should never be in. They shouldn't even be mentioned. And Bonds is, like I said, I just wish he would just disappear because he's such an annoying human being, and he just can't stand the limelight. And I guess he's been talking to Pete Rose, or he's been seeing the Astros saying, well, that's not right what happened to, and we agreed what the commissioner did with the Astros is an abomination itself, and that's another show for another time. That was just ridiculous. Shame is their punishment. I mean, give me a break.
Shame is their punishment. Nothing.
Yeah, he said shame. He said that their punishment was going to be shame and embarrassment for the rest of their lives. Well, they're getting their $25 million a year. I'm sure the shame will help with that. So
yeah.
But with those cheaters, they should never be in. I'm glad they're not being in. People are saying that, oh my God, we might have a steroid user in, and they'll talk about Bagwell, and I'm like, Bagwell never tested positive.
No.
Dejo never tested positive. Mike Piazza never tested positive. They just played in that era where people did steroids, so they just assume, well, they must have done it too. That's their evidence. Well, everyone else was doing it back then, so they clearly were doing it.
Yeah.
No, there's no evidence they did do it.
No.
So that's why they're in.
Bagwell never did it. Biggio never did it. And one name that popped up, and I'll close with this. One name that popped up during that steroids era because he was still playing and still a dangerous hitter at the time, Frank Thomas. People actually accused Frank Thomas of doing steroids. And I've been on this show on record as to say Frank Thomas is clean. Jim Thome is clean. Those two, the two of the best power hitters and two of the greatest power hitters who are now in the Hall of Fame, by the way, those careers, along with Bagwell and Biggio, are clean. Deal with it.
Yeah, and Griffey too. And Griffey could have easily taken steroids because he was always getting hurt.
Yeah.
And and if it wasn't for him being injured, I believe he would be the home run king right now.
I believe that too. I absolutely believe that.
I mean, he had well over 600, and he missed like 2 or 3, 4 years just being hurt and not playing a lot of games. And if he wasn't hurt and it was the Ken Griffey of Seattle, or maybe if he didn't leave Seattle, or maybe if he went to Cincinnati and stayed healthy, he would easily have been the home run king. Easily.
Yeah, he would have easily broken Hank Aaron's record, which I think should still stand. with what Barry Bonds did to disgrace baseball. And yes, I am saying it, and I'm on record saying that Barry Bonds and the rest of that steroid era disgraced baseball. All those who tested positive and had to go before Capitol Hill and basically lie their heads off saying, oh, we never did it. We never did it. Oh, yeah. Well, the evidence says otherwise. That's Rick Curdy, who's trying to bring Major League Baseball to Charlotte. If you haven't seen this movement, I encourage you to go online, look for his movement, and let's bring Major League Baseball to Charlotte, North Carolina. Thanks very much, my friend. I appreciate the time. Hey folks, Snowman here. Mark your calendars for April 20th. That's 2 weeks from now, because that's when I'm going to launch on my website the Snowman Digital Media Store. T-shirts, hats, mugs, all kinds of stuff with your favorite show logo or the Snowman Digital Media logo. That comes 2 weeks. April 20th is when the store will launch, and you can only see it on snowmandigitalmedia.com. Hey folks, Brian Snow here, and thanks for listening to this program. Want to hear and see more of it? All you have to do is go to the growing website we like to call Snowman Digital Media. The address you need is snowmandigitalmedia.com. Follow us on social media by punching in SNW Digital Media for Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Snapchat, and Pinterest. Thanks, Dr. K, for that idea.
This is Snowman in the Morning.
Holy on snow!
Where true sports talk lives.
I like him. He's silly.
You want to know something crazy, folks? Ever since I moved from Indiana to North Carolina with my family, I've met some great people. And last week I had Miles Clark on, who was a former Eagle, North Carolina Central. And now I have his teammate on. Say hello to Charles Whitfield. He joins me now on the other side of the hotline. How are you, my friend?
I'm doing great. How about yourself?
I'm doing terrific. It's great to meet you, and it's great to talk to you.
My pleasure. It's my total pleasure. And anybody that is a friend of my teammate Miles Clark is now a friend of mine, and my pleasure to join you on your radio show.
I really appreciate it. What was it like with you and Miles playing at North Carolina Central? And this is back in the 80s when you guys were in Division II before you guys made the jump to D1.
Exactly. No, it was a beautiful thing. Miles is a couple years older than myself, so he was like a big brother to me. And when I first came in as a freshman at North Carolina Central, I played basketball in Greensboro at Greensboro Page High School. And once I got to Central, you know, as you are in high school, when you're the man or one of the men on your team, when you get to college, you're back at the low man on the total pole again. And as a freshman, that's exactly where I was. And I had a couple guys like Miles, a couple other teammates. One of our teammates is a brother named Cleo Hill, Jr., who's now the head coach at Winston-Salem State. So he was another one of my big brothers, and another brother named Wayne Howell, who, you know, all three of those guys kind of almost adopted me as their little brother. And the experience was great. And to be able to be in practice and learn from those guys. And the beautiful thing is after college, you know, I graduated in college in 1991 and it's now 2020. But the beautiful thing is we're all still connected and we're still friends. You know, all of my teammates, we share a group text with about 20 of us. And every day, one of our teammates who now is a minister sends us out a scripture every day. And, you know, we're able to just communicate with each other. So whether, you know, unfortunately, we've had a couple teammates who passed away over the years. But when someone has a birthday or when something good happens in each other's lives, with the simple click of a text, you know, we're able to stay looped in. And Miles was always great on the court. He was a great basketball player. He was a great leader, but he was a great person. And the beautiful thing is, you know, with what we're going through now, with this, you know, coronavirus pandemic, you know, everyone has nothing but time. And through it, you're able to stay connected or reconnect with new friends such as yourself.
And it's been absolutely great to connect with you, to connect with Miles Clark and everyone I've had a chance to connect with. You were not only a basketball player, but you were also into music, which led to you getting into radio. And I read in your bio while folks were getting into Kool Moe Dee and those guys, you were into George Benson.
Exactly. I grew up listening to jazz with the older brother. I'm 50 years old. You know, if I can make it 2 more days, I'll be 51. Celebrate my birthday on March the 30th. But I have an older brother who's 10 years older than me, who, as most people know, if you have a brother or older sibling, you want to hang out with them. And that was my dream, was to just hang out and ride with him. And as I would ride around town with him, with us having a 10-year age gap, I was listening to a lot of jazz that he listened to, whether it was David Sanborn, whether it was George Benson, whether it was Miles Davis. And don't get me wrong, you also listen to a lot of early, you know, a lot of R&B. This was in the late 70s, early 80s. So whether it was SOS Band or Michael Jackson or Prince. So I really, you know, credit a lot of, you know, my music knowledge to my brother, because at the time I didn't know it, but I was actually, you know, riding around listening to music with him, and which would eventually turn into a job. Not only working in radio, but prior to me working in radio, I actually helped start a record label called Hidden Beach Records that actually Jill Scott was the first artist that I worked with, that actually through my brother and a close family friend being Michael Jordan, he actually became the majority investor in Hidden Beach. So at the end of the day, through relationships was how I ended up getting my job in the music business, and have been in it 25 plus years, and blessed to be in a business doing something I truly love every day. But through sports, a lot of relationships I met through sports, between sports and entertainment, as we all know. You know, all entertainers want to be tied into sports, and all sports athletes want to be tied in with musicians.
True.
And so the beautiful thing is I've been blessed through a lot of close relationships to be blessed to have my foot in both. And it's nothing that I ever take for granted. and it's a blessing. And I try and touch as many young people as I can to help pass down some of the knowledge and wisdom I've received over the years through some of my mentors. And to me, it's all about paying it forward.
Yeah, it is. And I try to do the same with my radio show and my media company, Snowman Digital Media, that I just started at the top of this year. And you just mentioned,
congratulations on that.
Thank you. And you just mentioned the player who I watched the most, which is Michael Jordan, and before him it was Julius Erving. And here is where I differ from a lot of folks that I talk to today in terms of basketball. When they ask me who my favorite player is, and I say Michael Jordan without blinking, at the same time, I'm not oblivious to the folks who paved the way for Michael Jordan, like a Julius Erving, like a Magic Johnson, like a Larry Bird. Hell, one of my favorite point guards played with Philadelphia, and that was Maurice Cheeks, fellow Chicagoan.
Nope, I grew up we're, without even knowing your age, we sound like we're in the same generation. And the one thing I can tell you, I met Michael when I was 15, and I'm 50. Soon to be 51, and he's like another big brother to me. And as I tell people, we actually met him when he was in high school. My brother used to be an assistant coach at a small school in North Carolina called Campbell University.
Yeah.
And they used to have a pretty prestigious basketball camp. And my brother was working on his master's degree. He played at Campbell, but he was a grad assistant. And when Michael was in high school, Michael came and played with a lot of the ACC players who used to come down and play. And that's where we first met him. And he and my brother just got a click and got a bond and stayed connected. And as I tell people, how close are he and Michael really are. One, they've been in business 25, 30 years. My brother is fortunately the president of the Charlotte Hornets. But when Michael's dad passed away, my brother and a few of Michael's close friends were pallbearers. Yeah. And at the end of the day, that's all you need to know what that relationship is about. So not only have they do business together where, my brother helps oversee all of the business side of the Charlotte Hornets, Michael's family. And so at the end of the day, when I've been around, but to your point, Michael paid homage to a lot of the guys like a Dr. J, guys like Larry Bird and Magic who were there before him, but also he was one that paid it forward. And unfortunately, with what's happened with the recent passing of Kobe Bryant, Kobe was a little brother to Michael. And if you looked at how Kobe played his game on the court and his tenacity and even what he started doing off the court, a lot of what he did was what he learned and from Michael. And, they were really, really close. And, anyone who saw Kobe's memorial service and saw that genuine emotion from MJ, that was real because he truly did lose someone that was a little brother to him. And at the end of the day, but he also always made homage to all those that were before him, the Magics, the Birds, the Bobby Joneses of the world, Moses Malone, George Gervin. Michael was a true historian of the game. And that's why I've been blessed to be around him and sometimes just sit and have real basketball conversations with one of the best. And to your point, when anybody asks me who's the best player that I saw play, it's MJ. Like you, without question. But I wasn't around when Wilt Chamberlain played or Bill Russell. I would see or all of the old greats, Clyde Frazier. But I'm a historian of the game. But to now see how I have an 8-year-old daughter who goes with me to all the Hornets games, and she first met MJ watching Space Jam.
Nice.
And so at the end of the day, her contemporaries are LeBron. Are the players, are Dwayne Wade. And, the funny thing is her favorite player right now is Kobe White. And so at the end, I know she's truly my daughter because, she's picking up the game because she's, basically grown up going to Hornets games or Bobcats games when she was born.
Right.
But she grew up in the arena with me. And so literally it's nothing better than seeing your kid and fortunately, I didn't have a son because if I had a son, I'm sure I'd be wanting him to play AAU. But having a daughter and seeing my daughter, that's me and her date night is going with me to Hornets games. And my wife is totally content, not that she doesn't like basketball, but she knows that's a good time and what's crazy, what we've been dealing with this coronavirus, literally, you can sit there at NBA TV and watch old classic games. And so, but, my daughter will go on YouTube and she knows how to go on and find some classic MJ games to look at. And so I'm truly, I'm like, you're definitely my daughter, because at the end, basketball, one, teaches you a lot about business, it teaches you a lot about life, it teaches you a lot about relationships. And that's the one thing, even how we connected through my teammate, Miles Clark, when you reached out to me and was like, hey, I met you, the first email you sent me was, hey, your teammate, Miles Clark, told me to reach out to you. And to me, I knew you were good just once on the premise that you and Miles had connected. And at the end of the day, that's the one thing that sports can do. It continually connects dots for you. Miles and I have not played basketball at Central. I graduated in 1991. We have not, you know what I'm saying? But guess what? We're still connected. Yeah, it was a few years that we lost contact, as a lot of people do. But the beautiful thing is, we were talking prior to to us starting the interview, with social media, it's been able to reconnect some dots back, and you're able to, see pictures from back when, when they won the championship in '89, or, see different things that were highlights in our life and, 30 years ago, but are still important. And through that, the relationships are still there. And that's the one thing, I credit social media can be great sometimes, and social media cannot be great.
This is
but
true.
The one thing that it has been able to do, it has been able to connect people together, and one, keep people connected and make new relationships, just like me and yourself literally just connected a week and a half ago through Miles. And, you reached out to me saying, hey, could you come in and get on my radio show? And I said, without question, because I met you through a good friend of mine. And so, and like I said, right now, unfortunately, and in some ways, fortunately, we got time right now.
Yeah.
And so, like I said, I appreciate you, asking me to get on. I've had a pretty unique journey, after college, to get into the music business, to follow my dream and passion. And part of what I do is, I find other young students. I'm on the board of visitors at North Carolina Central University, where we went to school, and I go and speak there probably 2 or 3 times a year to different students, whether it's school of business students, whether it's some athletes, or, whether it's some music students. And so part of, the upbringing I've gotten through both my parents is you got to pay it forward, because if you don't, then to me, that's almost paying rent for your time on earth, is making sure you help others be better.
Yeah.
And that's what I truly believe.
And that is so true. I've inspired, from what folks have told me, I've inspired so many broadcasters with my journey. And I listened to Jim Durham call Bulls games for many years. And I just had a simple philosophy. If he could do it, I could do it. And I've had so many people ask me, how'd you get into the business? How'd you use your degree to get in the business? Well, this is what shocks a lot of people. I don't have a broadcasting degree. I just got 25 years of experience listening to different announcers, Jim Durham being one. Of course, today's announcers, Kevin Harlan, Marv Albert, quite a few others, Joe Tate from the Cleveland Cavaliers.
I used to listen to Jim Durham because I lived in North Carolina. We used to get WGN.
Yes.
So I used to listen to him and Big Red and
Johnny Red Kerr.
Johnny Red Kerr. And at the end of the day, Stuart Scott was a good friend of mine. And so, one, he didn't necessarily call games, but the way he made, broadcasting or telling highlights on SportsCenter cool. But, so Stuart was a good friend. James Brown from CBS, is a mentor of mine. But, Mike Hill, that worked on ESPN and now works on Fox, is a friend.
Yep.
So, like I said, fortunately, I've been blessed over the years to, meet a lot of these guys, and they've ended up becoming good friends. Grant Hill was one of my good friends who now is in broadcasting, but he and I were in Durham at the same time when he was at Duke.
Right.
And I'm a little bit older than him, but I actually worked in showing how music connects you. I was working at a record store or CD store in Durham, not too far from Duke, kind of in the middle between Duke and North Carolina Central.
Yeah.
That it was in 1989 when CDs were really popular. And Grant Hill, Bobby Hurley, and Thomas Hill, all 3 guys came into my CD store, and I helped wait on them they came in asking about some music, and I waited on them. And from that one interaction, the three of us ended up becoming friends. And to this day, all three of us are still friends. And
That's
so
great.
from seeing what Grant was able to do on the court, but then it translated into the business world where he's a minority owner of the Atlanta Hawks, but in addition, he's a broadcaster. And so it's just been a beautiful thing to just make these good relationships and sustain them. And a lot of blessings I've had in my life always end up tending to fall back to sports. And that's, I started playing basketball when I was 6 years old in the YMCA. Prior to it was even AAU basketball.
Right.
And to this day, a lot of my same friends that I played basketball with on my first team when I was 6 years old, we're still friends.
Beautiful. See, friendships like that are few and far between, and friendships like that you want to keep because you grew up with those guys. They know you as well as you know them.
And yep. And we stay connected. And the beautiful thing is through social media and through, group texts and, we're able to stay connected. And, we've, saw our kids grow up. And, unfortunately, when, one of our parents unfortunately passes away or, honor another relative, we're always being able to be there for each other. And that's at the end of the day what life's about. And, what we're dealing with right now with this coronavirus is something, none of us have ever seen.
Yeah.
And so all I do is I have a wife and an 8-year-old daughter, and I'm trying to keep my family safe. And my mom, who's 88 years old, in an independent living community about 10 minutes from me. We haven't been able to see her for a week and a half because they've had them on quarantine.
Yeah.
But at the end, we moved my parents down here from Greensboro to Charlotte, just so we could be closer to them. And unfortunately, April of 2018, my father passed away, but he was 88 years old, and they been married 64 years. So at the end of the day, he lived a good life. But, we wanted to get my mom down here so we could help sustain her quality of life. And, she loved basketball, used to go to all of our games, and now she does not miss a Hornets game. So at the end of the day, we're able to give her something to look forward to. And that's why even, I talked to her prior to me calling in to this interview, and she was doing just what I'm doing, sitting at home watching NBA TV, looking at classic NBA games. Because really, it's nothing else to really do.
Right.
And so, but that's where, but my mom was a first grade school teacher for 30 years in Greensboro. And my dad worked in the Postal Service. So they were both, hardworking and taught us as a family, how to care about each other and how to always give back. And me and my brother have both been fortunate through our careers to be in a position to help others. My brother does a basketball camp called Achievements Unlimited that this will be the 36th year of the camp.
Beautiful.
He started it in 1985 when I was in 10th grade. And the reason he started the camp was because on his first basketball team, 5 of his 12 teammates had either passed away or were in prison or something before he reached 25. Man. And from that, he wanted to make a difference and start a camp. And we did a camp. We did the camp 25 years in Greensboro, and we've now going into our 12th year here in Charlotte. It's called Achievements Unlimited, and we've seen over 10,000 kids over the course of those years come through his camp. And he's had a lot of good achievements, being the president of Hornets and a bunch of other stuff. But his greatest achievement was this camp that he literally started in 1985 to give back to young kids. And at the end of the day, that's truly what it's all about, is giving back to others.
That is truly, truly it, giving back to others. And I've had a pleasure having this man on, Charles Whitfield, joining me here, 25 years in the sports and business and the music industry. I'm celebrating this August my 25th year in broadcasting. I really feel it was destined.
Oh, congratulations.
Thank you. I really feel it was destined for us to connect. This is Charles Whitfield.
Absolutely.
Tell everybody where they can find you, my friend.
You can find me on social media on Instagram at Charles W10, on Twitter, Charles2323, and on Facebook at Charles Whitfield. So once again, Instagram at Charles W10, Facebook Charles Whitfield, and on Twitter at Charles2323.
And of course, anybody who knows basketball knows who originated the number 23. Thanks a lot, my friend. I really
so
appreciate it.
Thank you so much for having me. And anytime you need me, just reach out, and I'll be glad to jump on again.
I really appreciate it. Got some more for you, folks, after the break. Hey folks, Brian Snow here, and thanks for listening to this program. Want to hear and see more of it? All you have to do is go to the growing website we like to call Snowman Digital Media. The address you need is snowmandigitalmedia.com. Follow us on social media by punching in SNW Digital Media for Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Snapchat, and Pinterest. Thanks, Dr. K, for that idea.
This is Snowman in the Morning,
Holy on snow!
where true sports talk lives.
I like him. He's silly.
I posed a question on Facebook, which tends to kind of get in trouble and tends to kind of get a little pushback against me, but I was fair. I was nice this time. And the question I posed was for the folks to fill in the blank. And the blank they needed to fill in, who do you think is the best quarterback coming out of this year's NFL draft? Well, here are some of the answers I got. Joe Burrow, of course. Jalen Hurts, of course. And then I get a wild card in Jordan Love out of Utah State. Now, I've had a chance to take a look at Jordan Love, and he's pretty dynamite. Let's see. Tua, of course. Tua Tagovailoa out of Alabama. Justin Herbert out of Oregon. And a couple people said they're even torn between Joe Burrows from LSU and Justin Herbert. But I'm going to be honest with you. There's a reason I put this question up there. And the reason I put this question up there is because I wanted to see if people would catch on to where I was going with it. And where I'm going is this. And one of my good buddies out of Texas, Remy Yates, caught on to what I was doing. All of these quarterbacks that are in this year's NFL draft are great quarterbacks, or they wouldn't have been selected to go to the combine, or they wouldn't be they wouldn't put their names in the draft anyway. Joe Burrow, dynamite season, led the Tigers to the national championship. We'll start there. Can Burrow succeed behind that porous Cincinnati offensive line? Can Burrow succeed without having that many receivers to throw to? Will the Cincinnati coaches get smart and develop a spread offense that would be beneficial to Joe Burrow? Will they have a quarterback? I mean, they got Joe Mixon, they have Giovanni Bernard. I nearly forgot his name. But the question is going to be with the offensive line. Are they going to give Joe Burrow enough time to sling that cannon arm? As far as Tua goes, I don't know. I do not know about Tua. And the reason I say I don't know about Tua is because of his injury. He had a horrific hip injury at South Carolina. Now, he's due to be cleared soon. He's due to be cleared to resume football activity. But how is his hip going to feel? How healed is his hip? How healed is his body after not playing football for basically the second half of the year and not getting that final contact? I know he was with his teammates while Alabama unfortunately fell out of the college football playoff. And another thing you have to wonder with Tua, is Tua going to follow the recent situation, I beg your pardon, the recent trend, that's the word I'm looking for, the recent trend, and of course my wife's waving at me, across from me, rolling her finger saying, get it out now, get it out. The recent trend, that's the correct word I'm looking for, of Alabama quarterbacks such as Tony Banks, A.J. McCarron, I got that wrong. Is a Saban-coached quarterback going to succeed in the NFL? Jamarcus Russell, Tony Banks, A.J. McCarron in recent times. Jalen Hurts, of course, he was under Saban. Then he transferred to Oklahoma, had a great season at Oklahoma, and then I come to Jalen Hurts right now. You know what? Jalen Hurts is the best way I can describe him. Even though he's got a rocket arm, I don't trust his accuracy, and I don't trust his legs, because he could get happy feet in the pocket and try to take off at every opportunity. He could take off at every opportunity and be more of a running quarterback. And if you don't have a pocket presence, not saying Jalen Hurts does, but it needs to improve. It needs to improve. Jordan Love is the closest thing, and Jordan Love is out of Utah State. Jordan Love could be the most complete package that no one has ever seen, unless you live on the West Coast, unless you live in the West, unless you live in the mountain range, then you know all about Jordan Love. Someone brought this name to me, and I decided to take a look, and I've liked what I've seen so far. I have a little more film to break down with Jordan Love. But if you were to ask me the same question that I posed to all of my friends about who the best quarterback they think is coming out of the draft, I've got two answers for you. The first one, Jordan Love. As I said, I still have to do more. I have to do more of a deep dive on him and look at his footwork, look at his arm, look at his accuracy, look at how he gets the ball down the field, look at how he's able to lead a team. And my second answer is an Oregon quarterback, Justin Herbert. There was something, and I know people are going to say, well, Marcus Mariota didn't pan out. He panned out for a while. He just lost whatever moxie he had. I don't think that's going to happen with Herbert. With Justin Herbert, you're looking at a 6'6" quarterback about 220 pounds, and most of that is muscle. I'm tempted to say all of it is muscle. I've had a chance to watch a lot of Oregon games over the past 2 seasons, and I really believe Justin Herbert is that man. Yes, he operates in a spread offense. He operated in a spread offense. But if he gets to the right team, if the right team drafts Herbert, then there is a possibility that Justin Herbert could be the absolute steal of this draft. Those are my 2 answers. Jordan Love, who's a mystery to a lot of people, myself included. As I said, I have to do more of a deep dive on Justin Herbert. On Jordan Love, I beg your pardon. I'm up early. I have to do more of a deep dive on Jordan Love. But a lot of people are high on him. And from what I've seen so far, I am also. Justin Herbert, to me, is one of the best quarterbacks in the draft. So those are my 2 answers. Jordan Love out of Utah State and Justin Herbert out of Oregon. A lot of people saw Justin Herbert and the performance he put on against Wisconsin in the Rose Bowl. If there was ever an audition tape for Justin Herbert to be selected in the first round of the 2020 NFL Draft that's going to take place in Las Vegas, Nevada, that was it. That was the tape that Justin Herbert needed to put out there, and it's out there. And teams are looking, and teams are salivating over Justin Herbert. Justin Herbert didn't come out last year for this reason. He wanted to get better. I say the same for Trevor Lawrence, who's at Clemson right now. But I would love to see what happens with all of these quarterbacks that are in the draft. I would love to see what happens with Tua. Can he recover from a hip injury? Joe Burrow, who I suspect will be chosen by the Cincinnati Bengals as the number 1 overall pick. Which brings this question to mind. Will the Miami Dolphins offer the world to Cincinnati for that number 1 pick? Or will Cincinnati be allowed to keep it? Because there are going to be a lot of people that are going to come after him, that are going to come after the Bengals, saying they want Joe Burrow. Joe Burrow, any of these quarterbacks in the right offense is going to be successful. Any of these quarterbacks, Jordan Love, Justin Herbert, Tua Tagovailoa, Joe Burrow. But it's all going to depend on if they get into the right system and if they have the right personnel behind them. Jacob Eason in the right system could shine. Jacob Eason out of Washington could shine as well. Here are a couple of problems I have with Tua. And, as much as I love watching the highlights, I didn't do too much of a deep dive with Tua, but Remy Yates got this to my attention. The hip injury I already mentioned. Lack of good size. And the fact that he played for Nick Saban. I mentioned the other quarterbacks that Nick Saban has had in his stables between LSU and Alabama. Jamarcus Russell, Tony Banks, A.J. McCarron. It's going to be interesting to see if Tua breaks that mold, being a Saban-coached quarterback and succeeding in the NFL. A.J. McCarron was very successful at Alabama under Coach Nick Saban. He hasn't done much in the NFL. More to the point, he hasn't given a good chance to do anything in the NFL. It's going to be interesting to see how this plays out. It's definitely going to be interesting to see. Arm strength, field IQ, field vision, knowing when to throw it away or run it, all of that are important. But again, the system that they are incorporated into is going to be so important. Some other things are going to be important with some of these quarterbacks. Being a leader, a locker room guy. That's going to be huge Would Big Ben be just as successful on the Bears if he hadn't been in Pittsburgh? Would Tom Brady be a 6-time champion if he went to any other team like the Browns and the Bengals? The right system will draft the right quarterback. The right team will draft the right quarterback. And then the right team that drafts the right quarterback, because there are going to be few available in this draft, will put the right pieces around him to succeed. So there are my two answers, and they're preliminary. Jordan Love out of Utah State and Justin Herbert out of Oregon. But the right team will draft the right quarterback, and the right team will also put together the right system around their quarterback. Just as the Kansas City Chiefs with Patrick Mahomes. Just as the San Francisco 49ers with Jimmy Garoppolo. The team and the system are going to determine who's the best quarterback in this draft class.
Well, that's going to just about do it for this edition of Snowman in the Morning. Want to thank you all for tuning in. Don't forget to log on to Snowman Digital Media, where you can hear a replay of this show, and also snowmaninthemorning.com, where you can hear a replay of this show. Check out the podcast on both sites, as the podcast will be available immediately after I close up shop here, which I'm about to do now. Until tomorrow, have a great day. God bless. Remember to make your next move your best move. And always remember, if your dreams don't scare you, then they are not big enough. Dream big, do bigger. I am, and I hope you all are too. Until tomorrow, Snowman's out of here.